promised, we are joined here on the Not Too Old to SummerSlam preview show by award-winning Boston producer James Stewart at I Am James Stewart on the internet, the host of Stick to Wrestling podcast, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Anyone in the Northeast knows who he is, and if you don't, you are looking at one of the best producers on one of the best shows on radio in the country, period. Jimmy, thanks so much for joining us.
You know, you guys are way too kind to me. I'm just a dude with a wrestling opinion who just continues to show up to work every day. That's all I really am. So I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, we like you. We would go as far as to say if you needed like managerial representation, we'll go into any meeting for you.
I appreciate
Do you mean, it's like an attorney thing, not like I would have like an urn and like accompany him to the ring?
Yeah, no, not like that type of manager.
I would say you guys are great advocates for me, so I appreciate that. So you got to tie it in.
We believe in the one producer in the, I don't know how I'm going to finish
So I used to have this. I actually wrote this out at one point where it was, I'm the one behind the number one show on the number one station.
Okay.
And then I had it kept going from there. I don't remember what it was, but
just lots of firsts.
And now, but I've transitioned from being the one behind to I was an advocate for a touch, but now I'm the wise man to the baseball tribal chief, Jared Carabas.
Perfect. And away we go.
And I have the T-shirt to prove it if you're watching on the video.
We talked about...
I might be the only person who bought the Paul Heyman shirt, by the way.
God bless the tribal chief and his wise man. We were talking earlier before the break about kind of like the state of WWE. And it is really impossible to talk about the last 20 years of WWE, certainly the last 10 to 15 years of WWE, and really kind of big picture the history now of WWE without mentioning one guy specifically who recently announced that this was it. There was kind of some mixed reports that went out there that WrestleMania 41 will be John Cena's last match. That's incorrect. It'll be his last WrestleMania match. Yes. He intends to work throughout the year. So 2025 will be the end of John Cena. I think it inarguably, and I want to open it up to just your open-minded opinion on the guy. For me, inarguably, the Mount Rushmore argument is so forced and whatever, and you have to include him. And I wanted to open it up to Eddie and Jimmy, but what I really believe is that John Cena, as far as like when you talk about the definitive guy, the company has had a small handful. I'm not talking about being very, very popular or being even like the guy at the time. I mean like a tent pole. And to me, it's Bruno, it's Hogan, it's Brett, it's Austin, it's John Cena, and we will wind up looking at Roman Reigns that way, okay? But with John Cena, he is the best representative the WWE has ever had, because Bruno Sammartino was in a time when his job wasn't to be really representative of the company. Hulk Hogan, from a personal standpoint, his name is so tarnished, let's say, at this point, just as what what we know about Terry Bollea, right? Bret Hart is really no longer a representative of the company at all. And Roman Reigns is going to be presented as an anti-hero for a good chunk of his run. So when you talk about John Cena being the number one wish granter for the Make-A-Wish program, the guy that wouldn't turn heel, not because he knew he couldn't make money off it or do it, but because he knew that there were kids out there that would be heartbroken by what they believed that guy was. And so between consistent match quality, he wasn't the flippy guy, no doubt about it, but between consistent match quality, representing himself. What's John Cena's biggest scandal? He cheated on his wife once 15 years ago. Sorry. Who cares?
Yeah.
Compare that to Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm pretty sure Hulk Hogan saying the N-word way worse.
So I want to open this up to both of you, like what you think of John Cena. But beyond anything else, I find John Cena to be the very best face of the WWFE they've ever had.
Yeah, that John Cena there had an unenviable task, right? Because he joins the WWE when they're rolling during the Ruthless Aggression era, and he's clearly on pace to be one of their next 10-pole guys, right? You have Randy Orton, who's in Evolution at the time. You have Batista, who's also in Evolution at the time. But then you have John Cena as well, who was clearly going to be the next guy, the doctor of thugonomics. He had an edge to him. And then Chris Benoit does what Chris Benoit did, and the company had to take a complete tonal shift. And good for John Cena for executing on that opportunity, because he was able to turn into 1980s Hulk Hogan. That's what they asked him to do, and he played the character beautifully for what they asked him to do. It didn't help that the show wasn't good. Like, that didn't help him. But I think we've all come back around where we now know what we're looking at, and we can recognize the greatness that is John Cena.
What he got unfairly lumped into was the character had become kind of repetitive, kind of good guy wins, LOL. And what's lost on that is what John Cena was asked to do. So the comparison I make is kind of the exact opposite, right? Well, we'll hear from people that like Heath Slater deserved better. And what people lose sight of big picture is I understand that the whoever Heath Slater's real name is an excellent pro wrestler. But what the average fan doesn't get, not to be condescending, is the role of Heath Slater was a character, and this guy was so good, he got to be a WWE wrestler with a character predetermined. Yeah. They were going to have a lovable loser, and this guy was able to handle that character. John Cena was Superman to the point of almost becoming a little dry, but that's not because of his limitations as a performer. That was the script, and he kind of got lumped into the whole thing.
John Cena is on the record as saying, if you think I'm a heel, I'm already a heel, so I don't need to turn.
Right.
That's a John Cena-ism right there.
You already boo me.
So there's no need for me to turn because I've already turned in your mind. So there's no need for John Cena on the bigger picture to actually turn into a villainous character.
Right.
Like Hulk Hogan, ironically, if you look at his run of matches from, say 84 to 89-ish, he kind of works heel. He kind of works like a villain. Watch a match with Harley Race. Watch a match with the Honky Tonk Man. Like, there are instances of Hogan really working villainous style.
He screwed over Flair.
He did.
That's not babyface-ish.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that Hulk's value hasn't really taken that much of a hit because he's still selling merchandise. And it's still, so there's still an audience out there for Hulk Hogan.
It'll be very interesting to see how, because it's a little too early to tell with the RNC stuff that happened a few weeks ago when we're recording this. So it'll be interesting, but we just don't know that data.
Right, exactly.
But I noticed that he's a part of they're advertising that Fanatics event.
Yep.
And I have noted on multiple occasions that it's like he's tucked in the back now.
He did a Rumble thing. He did a Rumble hype package for WWE as Hulk Hogan. He was, I know that was January, but I mean, like, he is still sort of every once in a while showing up and being Hulk Hogan for them, knowing he is completely physically limited. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, even if he was in their good graces during the big WrestleMania 40, like, hoopla at the end where everybody that got an invite and showed up, like, of course Hulk Hogan could have been part of that. He wrestled The Rock at a very big match at WrestleMania.
Sure.
Hogan could have been, like, because Street Clothes Undertaker wasn't the answer. It should have been Steve Austin. But let's just say
that's a whole nother story.
Exactly. And a shame because Steve Austin makes that just maybe the coolest wrestling thing ever.
I disagree with you on that, but that's a side topic.
I think it is a side topic. I think it's way better than Street Clothes, but I get you. But the point is, like, Hogan could have, like, you could have easily justified Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania, taking out The Rock. There's a story there, but not only is Terry Bollea not welcome, I guess, but he physically is incapable of doing so.
So I think he's welcome. I just think that they're spotty as to where he's welcome to make sure that he gets the right ovation, like the Mean Gene Okerlund thing years ago.
Sure.
But he's selling a bunch of merchandise both on his own site and through Fanatics. I know that his numbers are high. So there is an audience for Hulk Hogan. So Hulk's value might be more where your political leanings are than they are whether you're wrestling.
I think that's very fair.
I also think that people, for the most part, like Hulk Hogan and don't really care about the other stuff.
I think people want to like Hulk Hogan. I think that's what it is. Not that I'm telling you that they don't. I think it's one of those things where if you're a wrestling fan and you kind of know who this guy is and you probably don't like him, but then you're at a wrestling show and Real American plays and you probably pop, that kind of thing. But with John Cena, there's none of that. There's none of it. Like, John Cena's, I guess, stains, again, are cheating on a wife that's really none of my business.
And not marrying Nikki Bella.
Right, not marrying Nikki Bella.
There's a layer of that's a side topic, too.
But, like,
and it was her fault.
And I don't want to, like, bring this up because it's such a touchy subject, but, like, take a look at what Steve Austin did when he was married to Deborah. And that's way worse than John Cena being kind of a weirdo about his house on Total Divas. You know what I mean? It's just that guy. I'm not telling you he's perfect, but he feels the only. I hate to keep bringing this back to Boston, but like it's like Tom Brady. It's like he just doesn't seem to screw up. You know what I mean? And if you're the WWE and you had to pick somebody, we talk about slotting in roles. We need somebody to be the triumphant hero, squeaky clean, get us through this. How could you say anybody would have done a better job of what was asked than John Cena?
No, John Cena is the number one guy, and John Cena is probably going to get number 17 at some point
He better.
during this next run.
That's a sincere question I have for you is, will he, should he?
Oh, I have his 2025 year laid out for you.
We have a graphic ready and everything.
Yeah, we did.
Prep work, right? So what I would do for John Cena's last year, he's got 30 to 40 appearances. He's not going to wrestle on every show.
Sure.
So I've broken it down. There's probably 1, 2,
What a
3,
goddamn
4,
professional.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9 matches that I have written down with 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 potential opponents.
Love it.
Right?
Okay.
So this is a roughed, what they would call, I guess, in the business, a skeleton.
Sure.
Is that the proper?
Sure,
You know, your
yeah.
storyboarding.
Yeah.
I asked. It's funny. The internet made fun of me because I asked Triple H at a Survivor Series press conference about storyboarding things. And the internet's like, "Oh, so you use the term storyboard." That's what they do.
Yeah,
You
no, it's a
know.
play. It's a
Yeah.
play. It's a movie.
Yeah.
First of all, that's the terminology they use
Yeah.
because they have segments and it's oh god.
And it's because I know people, so that's why.
It's
I
a
use that
TV
term.
show, everybody.
yeah.
So this is the short form. I can go through each individual. I know I'm not leading this. This is your show. This is your guys.
You
but
do your thing,
I'll-
buddy.
I'm used to leading. That's the problem.
Do it.
So John Cena's last year, I would have him win the Royal Rumble match.
Sure. I would agree.
How many has he have? 2?
I think he's at, because he would have won when he was the 30th entrant in Madison Square Garden, and he won whatever.
He won the Batista one, right?
He won the, no, Batista won that one.
They called, okay. I think he's got 2.
So we'll say he's got 2, right? I would have him win that match. And what I would do is his own precedent is he has challenged the champion of his choice at Elimination Chamber. He said he's doing the Elimination Chamber match. I would put him and Cody for the WWE title at the Elimination Chamber,
Okay.
right?
Sure.
So I would do that. Then I would go to, and so this is where it kind of gets a little, because I've thought about this. What's the bigger match? Cody Cena main eventing night 1 or CM Punk and John Cena main eventing night 1 of WrestleMania?
Probably Punk because you just squeezed that nostalgia lemon out of it. And I think that Cody's strength, not only Cody's strength, but I think that their desire for Cody Rhodes is to work baby as much as possible. Right now, he is a ticket-selling, merch-selling,
He's also
kid-hugging.
the heir apparent.
And like you want to talk about like this, Cody Rhodes right now is working a traditional baby style that we haven't seen. It's before Cena because Cena was this like almost this like edgy. I mean, he's working like just I can't
always
even
equate it to he's one of these like they've been remaking video games recently. Most recently is Final Fantasy VII. They've been remaking, and the term is quality of life improvements, right?
Sure.
There have been precedents that have been set in video games since that game has been made, and we added those things to make the game feel modern. And that's how I feel about Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is a throwback 1980s babyface.
Yeah,
but he has all of those quality of life improvements that you would see by somebody in 2024.
Yeah, he reminds me of a modern Bret Hart, where it's like, not only do I want to work clean, but I want the kids to like me. I want to be the hero. I want, I don't. So, as somebody, one time, I don't know if I ever mentioned this, Cody Rhodes and I had lunch, and he bought me an orange lemonade.
Sure.
That really did happen. He was working an indie show, and it was my job to get Cody Rhodes around that day. This was 2017. And no disrespect to the guy. We've had him on the show twice. I'd love to have him on again now that we're kind of doing these
Technically,
things.
he owes us because he won the Rumble.
He promised. I find Cody Rhodes as somebody who sat down at a table and had lunch with him. God forgive me. I find Cody Rhodes to be unbelievably disingenuous, right?
Sure.
Cody Rhodes is really good at saying the right things and put her there, pal. But you can tell that the second he walks away, he's just being like, you know what I mean? Like,
He's a politician.
he is.
So Roman Reigns was right again.
Cody Rhodes, just I can't even, I don't mean to be a dick, but it's somebody who did drive around with him and felt like, he was just sort of talking down to me while being respectful all at the same time. It's hard to describe, but I just kind of felt like he was very nice in the fakest way. Okay.
Sure.
And even it's so strange to me, like he just very recently went to Japan because they're working at they're working a hybrid partnership with Noah, and they're in Japan, and they gifted him his dad's robe and hat. And I can tell, I'm really good at body language. And again, I spent, some time with the guy. He is so sick of hearing about his dad. He is so tired of having to share this with his dad and talk about his dad and bring up his dad. And did you hear about his dad and all the things about his dad, that I could just tell, even putting on that robe and the big funny hat, and he did the smile and he said thank you and this means so much to me. But it's just, there's something about his body language that's just disingenuous to me.
Yeah.
But he still wants to present himself as the squeaky clean, pull the kid out of the crowd, give him a hug. We're at a house show. None of this matters. Let's dance around the ring together. Like, he wants to be the people's champion because Cody Rhodes understands the value in that from a monetary perspective, that if I get to be the next top babyface in WWE, the money I'll make, somebody's got to do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Why not me? And that I do have a kind of an opposite in Roman Reigns, in Seth Rollins, in CM Punk. And so I just think that Cody Rhodes is going to present himself, although I think it's an act, as the squeaky clean guy. I don't see him crossing paths with John Cena. I see him crossing paths with a CM Punk, with John Cena crossing paths with a CM Punk, a Randy Orton, a Gunther.
See, I think that this needs to be a WWE championship. So either he beats Cody Rhodes, or, God forbid, Cody Rhodes, and we'll talk about this later, but Cody Rhodes is not the champion, and there might be a different leader of the bloodline that would be his WrestleMania opponent.
So I've gone back and forth about the Elimination Chamber thing, but Cena wins the Rumble. He goes on, he beats Cody. That is my play. I think it'd be a bigger moment at WrestleMania, but say for the sake of the discussion, he beats Cody at Elimination Chamber, right? But if you want to flip Punk, he fights at Elimination. I want to get the CM Punk match out of the way.
Sure.
Not because it's disrespectful, but I think that they're a bigger fish to fry than
I don't even know if it'll
match with CM Punk.
And not for nothing, you might need to house show this thing just to try it, or
I don't know if
I don't
Phil
trust
Brooke can do it.
I don't trust CM Punk's body, and John Cena's clearly off the gas.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what's that thing going to look like? I almost want to see him work with Randy Orton more, because I know Randy Orton is still a professional quarterback who can get me through this game. You know what I mean?
So for the sake of this, let's say that I'm gonna have John Cena beat Cody Rhodes, and night one of WrestleMania, WWF title, WWE title, still do it.
CM
That's your
Punk
WrestleMania
finally
moment.
gets his main event.
So Cena beats Cody, gets the title. Cena versus Punk, WrestleMania night one, because you're doing Roman and The Rock night two.
Sure.
And supposedly Netflix wants Roman for their show, so that's for the Raw belt, right? Or it can be not for a belt. Doesn't matter. They've done that before. So now the summer is kind of like the summer of Cena as champion. Give me Drew McIntyre, give me Damian Priest, give me Gunther, give me Kevin Owens, Jey Uso, Trick Williams, something like that, so he's building off of something. He's eventually going to drop the title before we get to SummerSlam, or maybe this is for the title. SummerSlam, Gillette Stadium, Foxborough, Massachusetts, John Cena versus The Rock 3.
I like the idea that not only are you so prepared, but what I like the idea is what you got to kind of take in mind with John Cena is what do we want to accomplish before the end? Some of it might be like, there's all sorts of things. It won't be all of them. It might not be any of them. It probably will be a couple. Like, do we want John Cena to finally win the Intercontinental Championship? The one belt that's eluded him this entire run. He's never had it. Do we want to accomplish that? Is he the right guy to take on Gunther? Does that make sense? Do we want to go in that? Is Gunther still the Intercontinental Champion?
No, he dropped
He
it
lost
to
to
Sammy
Sammy.
at WrestleMania.
That's right. Sami Zayn is the
He
Intercontinental.
might win a SummerSlam.
And do we
I'm
want
not
to?
sure he is.
I
but
don't think
more
he
on
is
that
either,
later.
But yeah.
Do we want, like, how many one last times? Because I think you do at least one of the following three. One last time, Rock, Orton, Punk. At least one of those, right? Where do we want to get in? I think that the good thing about John Cena is you can be so successful without a title, and that there is this secondary championship that would count. You know what I mean? Would it feel as good? No, but it would count only because, you know, what Eddie and I talked about earlier in this very show, which is I don't think that dropping people from space to disrupt things that make more sense is the play in wrestling anymore. At least it's not as necessary.
Well, this WWE,
But why would John Cena beat Cody Rhodes?
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because it's the moment, and it's still the moment, and it's a story. And that's where Cody got his moment because it was finishing his story. So now the story
does it not
is
conflict that
John
we're going
Cena.
from top, like that John Cena's time is gone, so he should beat my top baby for a belt
I think
who's
it's gonna
going
be-
to replace him?
I think it's going to be Solo. I think
But you see what I'm
because-
saying though? It's like,
I'm rooting for Solo.
Yeah.
but you see
that's
what
a-
usually
So-
in wrestling we do the exact opposite. Where,
so
where we,
I don't think he takes it off of Cody because I don't think Cody has the belt much longer.
But I
You think
also
Solo
too-
Sikoa is going to win the
Yes,
WWE
I do.
Championship?
I love that take.
I do.
Is
Is it so Reigns comes back and has?
Well, because it opens up two doors. It either opens up Solo versus Roman, or it opens up John Cena versus Solo, because Solo beat him at WrestleMania last year or 2 years ago.
Well, it was also that John Cena's crown jewel.
Yes.
I think it was where Solo demolished him.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. So there is bad blood between the two. So putting them for the title makes a lot of sense, as well as building up this other young star, right? Because I don't think losing to John Cena at WrestleMania is damaging.
No, and the other thing too is there could be a Cody turn as WWE champion. You guys were talking about the indie
Yeah,
stuff
sure.
before,
Yeah.
and villain Cody was great. And he wears a suit. He's kind of a villain anyway. And if I view him as a villain, he already is a villain because he's a politician. I despise politicians. But again, so at some point, I have John Cena over Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship, right? The summer, you can fill in, like we talked about. Foxborough Stadium is getting SummerSlam. I don't know if it's 2025 or if it's 2027, but they're getting a SummerSlam.
Okay.
So I do Cena Rock 3 at SummerSlam in Foxborough. If it's for the belt, great. If it's not for the belt, that's okay. You're going to pack 70 grand into Foxborough Stadium for John Cena's second to last match in New England. We'll get to his last match in New England in a second. But Cena Rock 3, The Rock will politician his way to getting a win there. I don't think you do it there. I think Cena wins over Rock, much to the upsetness, the madness, the political nature of The Rock, because I also believe, and I've said this on Stick to Wrestling, The Rock came back and wanted badly to book himself to beat Roman Reigns
Right.
in the Night 2 main event
Right.
for the championship. And then it doesn't matter. He'd hand it back to him the next night, whatever. He just wanted that WrestleMania moment.
What a waste that would have been. And like, so what I think is, two separate thoughts. I actually think John Cena in the next year or so that he's going to work throughout the year, I actually think he's going to lose a lot. I think that John Cena is going to, as not only a matter of like personal pride, pick a guy or two. Like I could see him picking, God, what's his name? Carmelo Hayes, and putting that kid over, right?
Sure.
I don't think it's going to be John Cena put over tour, and I think John Cena is going to get his, and he's not here just to be like, his career winning percentage must be like 92%. He's not here to drop it into the 80s. Gotcha. But I do think he's going to pick a guy or two, Gunther and Carmelo Hayes, let's call those the two guys that he does put over out the door. And I actually think he might do a decent amount of losing to guys that kind of need it more, who will be here in 6 months to a year after John Cena is already told you he's going. The reason I don't think that he beats Cody Rhodes personally is because it feels like the exact opposite of what we do. The reason that Hogan didn't go over Rock even during the crowd pivoting and they didn't give the ref the call to flip is because this is the end, and with The Rock it's the prime, and with Cena it's the end, and with Cody it's the prime, and I just don't want to send the message that like Cody's the man but not the man, you know what I mean? I just think it's better if they don't cross paths.
But what they did after WrestleMania 18 was they put the title on him the next month, and then they're like, oh, that was a mistake, let's get it off Hogan and go forward.
And what the other thing that I think too,
but it was about the moment, and it's like, well, we're switching from WWF to WWE. Hogan's hot as Blue
Right.
Flame hot.
right?
So let's put the title on him. We'll transition to the E. Hogan's the first WWF champion. He's the last WWF champion. He transitions into E, and then we'll go from there.
And
There's
I also understand totally that crowd flipping the script led them to go like, there's money in red and yellow, let's do it. We don't trust Scott Hall. We don't need Kevin Nash. The money is in reviving red and yellow Hulk Hogan, and they got a lot of juice out of that squeeze, no doubt about it. The thing with Hogan, though, like I said, was at the end of the day, one of the best things about Rock and Hogan is it's very digestible. The whole thing from Goosebumps to the end is like 15 minutes, and the right guy won. You know, as much as it would have popped the crowd if Hogan went over, the right guy won. I don't see Cody. I think if anything, Cody beats him, or they just don't cross paths.
I just need John Cena to get 17.
I think I don't disagree with you, and I think I mean this. I think it's less satisfying, but I think like beating Damian Priest or something is more likely because I think they want Cody Rhodes to be the champion for quite some time.
So let's back up. Let's go back to Elimination Chamber. He loses to Cody at Elimination Chamber, right?
Sure.
And it can be in Saudi Arabia. It can be,
yeah.
For the maybe CM Punk walks into WrestleMania 41 as the Raw World Champion.
Sure.
Maybe.
And then he beats CM Punk and wins 17 at WrestleMania. The idea is that let's get 17 out of the way.
Right, sure, yeah,
And then
sure.
let's move forward with wherever it's going to go from there.
Well, because I would love to live in a world where we start at WrestleMania with 17.
They're also like the company in general doesn't really do a lot of like, unless it's injury based, hey, I won this title, you can have it back.
Yeah.
That's really not a WWE thing.
Yeah, but having John Cena win 17 at the last WrestleMania, huge. Then we have a bunch of different options where we can have the John Cena Open Challenge for the WWE Championship. We get to do a lot of stuff where people that you had mentioned, Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre,
Trick Williams,
you
Jey
know,
Uso,
yeah,
Kevin Owens.
These are all
Gunther.
great people to have John Cena matches because you get to pack in a bunch of John Cena matches with a bunch of people, and we only have to have a few real stories.
What I think John Cena equates to is like, so Roman Reigns, right? There's one title that Roman Reigns has that has not been taken from him. And Eddie and I talked a lot about this, we didn't have a show, but we would just text about it, is that Roman Reigns has at the time going into WrestleMania with Cody Rhodes, had two titles. One of them that was up for grabs and one of them that Cody Rhodes was not trying to take and did not take, which was the Tribal Chiefdom. The WWE Championship was on the line. The Tribal Chiefdom was not, which is why I have hope that there is something with The Rock because there's something left to fight for, right, with The Rock. I think Reigns and The Rock are obviously on a collision course, and the last story is this is bigger than titles. This is about Samoa. This is about 200 years of our families. This is about you represent the Mayavias and I represent the Anoais, and we're gonna do this. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's the story, and the shells and that is the story. That's all it needs. It's all it's ever needed. Which was why when The Rock wanted to win the championship or whatever, you don't need it. You don't need it. You don't need it. You don't need it. And with Cody, that's why John Cena feels like you can accomplish a lot without him being the champion. So if he does win a belt, I think it's going to be either a very short run or greatly out of character for WWE, like I said, which is I'm going to retire the champion. Thank you. Good night.
Oh, he's definitely not going to retire the champion.
He wouldn't want that. He definitely would.
They don't do that.
Yeah.
Like that's why like
It was
you know,
Edge was the last one to do that.
and again, that's injury.
That was
injury.
That's injury. That's Daniel Bryan.
I think The
did-
Rock
that's-
wanted to do that.
yeah.
Oh,
The Rock
in
did.
02 or in 11 or
last-
10.
last
yeah,
week.
right. Oh, right. But like that's they
He
don't.
still has it on his
Yeah.
own personal booking sheet.
And that's why, to be fair, not to walk down this road, but like with the Montreal Screwjob, when Bret Hart's like, let me win it tonight, and on Raw, I'll give it to you and be like, I don't even want to be the WWF champion. And like, Bret, that does nothing,
Yeah.
nothing for me. John Cena's different because clearly he's not like, I don't even want to. It would just be like, I'm done. Thank you. Goodbye.
Yeah.
But, they don't do that.
No, it would have to be, you have to kind of look a little further down the list, but it's like it is somebody like a Carmelo Hayes. Trick Williams is a great name as well.
They love Trick Williams
But-
in NXT.
But
I hope,
those
I
are-
hope they love Carmelo.
But
Christian's
those
a
are
good
two
guy.
guys that Braun Breaker is another one that's really
He's on
high
my
up there.
list.
But those are three guys. Ilya Dragunov, if you want to just have nice four. But those are four guys that are their next blue chip prospects. So the WWE Championship will be taken off of John Cena by one of those four men.
Okay.
Now, when that happens, it'll be close to the following WrestleMania. I just don't know what he says.
So we've talked. I think we've all kind of agreed that the World Heavyweight Championship would feel lesser than,
Yes.
but. Don't you think it's an easier device, especially if, let's just say it's Braun Breaker, that Braun Breaker might not ready to be the WWE champion, but this, which I'm sorry, what it is glorified Intercontinental title
Yeah.
might make more sense, and they still count it.
So the only reason is that I think, much like our graphic shows, that's the last image you want. You don't want the last image to be the pseudo big gold belt.
I don't disagree with that
And-
at all because he's going to hold it up. Like
Yeah.
the last image he has, one of the graphics we have is him beating AJ Styles. 16 is him beating AJ
Yeah.
Styles, and it is something to be said about it being their big giant logo.
Yeah.
I understand.
And
that.
so
I do. I
think
understand.
having that is more important. Currently, the WWE Championship is on SmackDown, which is his show. So, unless they do another draft and flip the titles, I think that having him on SmackDown is a little bit more important. Just because of his history with the show.
And TV can indicate a lot too. Like, you know what I mean? Like Fox wanted Brock Lesnar to be champion, and WWE was like, no problem. Give us 30 seconds.
Yeah,
you know
right.
what I mean? And then we'll get it. We'll do it for you.
Yeah.
So if TV and Netflix or whomever becomes a factor, yeah, there is great marketability in the safest guy they've ever had being the champion one last time.
Yeah.
I just think that with Roman Reigns, that's the parallel is he doesn't need it to have a huge year and a half for them.
Sure.
But it will help if it's part of it.
Yeah.
Let me throw this at you. So I'm just going to rapid fire. Does John Cena win the Royal Rumble?
Yes.
Yes.
Does John Cena win the Intercontinental Championship ever in his career?
No.
No.
Does John Cena win Title 17?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it the Undisputed Championship?
Yes.
Yes.
Does he ever do anything out of character for John Cena on the run just to finally say he did?
Oh, no. Somebody said that John Cena finally needs to turn heel at
Right.
the end, and I responded by saying, no, we're not going to never give up right up until the end.
I agree with that. You don't, and this is the last question I'll ask about John Cena before we'll talk about people that.
Oh, I have to finish my run through.
Oh, please,
yes.
please do. We're gonna.
It'll be quick. We'll rapid fire.
John Cena's doing this the right way. We're going to talk about a couple folks who overstayed their welcome in pro wrestling. But my last question to you then will be, you don't have to Mount Rushmore. I don't care about top fours or whatever. But what is his place? Where is John Cena's place in wrestling history, in WWE history? Just where do you place him as far as the pantheon is concerned?
I put him at, no lower than 3. I think Hogan made it mainstream. Take all the side stuff, but Hogan 83, Hogan 84, Sports Illustrated. If you were to go on the street and ask for one wrestler, it's probably Hulk Hogan. It's probably John Cena, and then it's either The Rock or Steve Austin.
Yeah, I'd probably put him 3 as well. John Cena is rapidly climbing the list of my favorite wrestlers. I had a really weird personal interaction that he's unaware of back in December, and it was I think that man kind of has embodied to me everything that the character has embodied this entire time.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to just kind of go on this last ride. And I think it is going to kind of cement him as the greatest.
I just want to add something to what Eddie said. I had a conversation with John Cena back in December. And what I will share about that is he's the same person that I met in during the Dale and Numi era of my life. So that's 02-ish, 03-ish. Same exact first-class person. So, like, that person never really kind of changed as far as my interactions with him. But fabulous stand-up guy. He should be, based on everything inside and outside of the ring, he should be the number one based on all that.
I think that if you were to go, like, Eddie makes a great
He's the prototype.
Right, and I think Eddie makes a great kind of general point where if you were to ask the average guy walking down the street, hey, name a pro wrestler, probably instinctually Hulk Hogan and Steve Austin are more of like the mainstream.
Rock.
But here's the thing. That only comes with a certain age demographic.
Sure.
Because what John Cena has done is the only guy that I think you can really, really compare John Cena's career to is Dwayne Johnson. Because Dwayne Johnson is an all-time wrestler that actually made it. Like, God love Hulk Hogan and Thunder Lips. And, and Steve Austin didn't really try to be a mainstream after wrestling star. Dave Bautista, I guess it's like Bautista and...
Batista's the best actor of the bunch.
Right, but
he's not the biggest star.
So what John Cena is probably the greatest total package wrestling's ever seen because he was a better worker than Hulk Hogan. He was more sellable, longer, and more durable than Steve Austin. He, again, is just like, he never let that company down. He never let that. He didn't drive drunk. He didn't have some secret tape that is just so damning. He didn't tell a kid to F off at the airport. He just never screwed up. And you combine the work rate. Like, was Bret Hart a better worker? Yes, but Bret Hart wasn't more sellable and didn't draw as the ratings that Cena did.
And Bret and John were asked to work different styles.
Exactly right. And so, like, were there certain, if you asked for one attribute about John Cena, you could probably name somebody better at him, right? Hulk Hogan was probably the bigger star, and Steve Austin probably made more, like, sold more, maybe one singular T-shirt, kind of, you know what I mean, and brought you to that. But like, if you take everything it takes to be the face of the World Wrestling Federation, nobody did it better than that guy and did it for so long. Hulk Hogan was like 7-8 years. Steve Austin was like 4 years. You know what I mean? Like, this guy was the man for them for well over a decade, as far as like what they asked him to be, that guy. Well over a decade. Nobody else can touch that, and it's just, that's his place. But I do want to know how you would wrap up the career of somebody who is in such good standing, I think, within everybody's minds.
So, Crown Jewel, he does Logan Paul. He has a match with Logan Paul. That's a celebrity match.
He's surprisingly good.
Insanely good. Survivor Series, you do something with Braun Breaker. What that is, I don't know. His last week of matches, Madison Square Garden, Randy Orton.
Ooh, okay.
Los Angeles Forum, Dominic Mysterio.
Okay.
Oh, wow, all right.
The last show that John Cena ever does as an active wrestler, TD Garden, Raw, December 30th, Carmelo Hayes.
Give him the WWE Championship.
Sure.
And so that comes also from a bias. You were talking about Christian before. Yeah. I love the man.
So,
he's first-class individual.
Guy's awesome.
So it's full bias. Carmelo, hopefully the writers on the main roster understand what the writers in NXT understood about Carmelo and what he can be and what he should be. So hopefully by the time we get to December 30th of 2025, Carmelo Hayes would be in a spot to have that spot at Raw at the TD Garden for John Cena's last match.
That'd be huge. I'd love it. See, but that's what I'm talking about, is having that be the last match. He doesn't have to be WWE champion at that point. He can lose to Randy Orton at Madison Square Garden if you
And you could layer it out so that the MSG show is Raw, the LA Forum is SmackDown, TD Garden is the last Raw, December 30th.
I think that John Cena ends his career on a win. That's my bold prediction.
So I do too. I think he ends on a win,
He doesn't go out on his shield, and maybe he does win this championship and put somebody over in a very big way.
Sure.
I think that just John Cena. There's one of two ways John Cena has to go out: with a win, because that's what John Cena does, or tapping out, because it just took him like 21 years in between tap outs or something. Like Angle made him do it, but no, he won't do that. He'll never give up. But like again, this is a polarizing career, and I know that 10 years ago when we were kind of in the middle of John Cena and like, is this ever going to end? He again took a huge amount of heat for playing a role exceptionally well. You didn't have to like the character, but he played it exceptionally well.
Yeah, well, and personally, my mindset has kind of shifted in terms of the John Cena character, and it's really helped going back and rewatching a lot of stuff. When you look at it in terms of like, no, John Cena is Superman. John Cena is Goku. John Cena is one of these larger-than-life protagonists, because when you look at like
Hulk Hogan was.
Yeah, when you look at stuff like Dragon Ball Z and Goku, right? A majority of the show is them waiting for Goku to show up to take care of the problem. When there's these massive DC multiverse events,
You have to put Superman in a coma.
Superman has to be somehow
Incapacitated.
occupied.
Right.
And the whole thing is let's wait till Superman gets here.
That was how Justice League ended.
Yeah.
Like Superman's in the movie for like 7 minutes at the end, just whooping ass.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Because I
Right.
can't create a villain that poses a credible
And
threat to him.
So that's where John Cena is now. And if you look at him and appreciate him in one of those type of lenses, the show is way better.
But and to be fair, because we complimented this guy basically the entire segment, John Cena played politics as well.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Like John Cena, the reason that Nexus didn't go over was not just because John Cena, didn't want to beat
Sure.
Nexus, right? So he politicked too. He had a real problem putting over Daniel Bryan. Didn't want to do it. He did, but he didn't want to.
That's interesting. I heard the opposite.
I
I heard it was his idea.
I didn't, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I heard incorrectly. I know.
Oh no, I know for sure that different people tell different things to different people, and there's a definite political divide there.
It's
so
just,
I don't think that you're lying.
Yeah.
I think you might have been lied to in the same way that I'm not lying. The person who told me might be lying to me.
I know that like he had no problem putting Owens over, but didn't want to do it match one. If you watch him, he did it. But if you watch Kevin Owens beat John Cena, like shockingly, he pins him and Cena rolls right out of the ring and heads back. And you'd think he'd kind of give him that like shot of John Cena on his.
Yeah.
He wouldn't do it. And there were years, like I said, between ask Wade Barrett if his career would have been a little different if John Cena would have worked with it. You know what I mean?
The whole reason why the Shield works is because they beat John Cena.
And like again,
and the power bomb on the Undertaker overseas.
and it's so he. Also, like everyone who's ever succeeded in this business played the game too. And there are certain things that, again, should John Cena have let the Nexus go over? Yeah. Are there certain guys here and there? But then you kind of look back and you go, well, I sure am glad he didn't put over Ryback.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? And so maybe John Cena also kind of knew the deal. He's an interesting career to reflect on. Yes. I agree completely.
Now in my mind, I'm trying to think of like times that John Cena rolled out of the ring prematurely.
What I was told, so like
now I'm like, wow, he didn't want to do that.
I got to have a real personal relationship with a guy that manages talent back there. I won't tell you which talent, but a manager of talent there, not on screen. Yeah. And Owens is one of his guys. And that was like how it was described to me was, it's totally cool that you'll get one, but they're like, no, this will probably be a one and done. And if you watch, Cena just get 1, 2, 3, just I'm out of here. And he wouldn't do more than that for him. And, there's moments of that in the career.
Well, here's the thing. John Cena also had to hear it for years, right? Because in all the pro wrestling magazines for years prior to that moment, everybody was talking about how amazing Kevin Steen was and how Kevin Steen should be the top wrestler. So I could understand why John Cena might be rubbed a little the wrong way.
Also think about...
And plus, Kevin Owens is a talker. He'll talk your face off if you're in the right place at the right time.
And you got to think too, and it wound up being
nice.
it wound up
Oh
being
no, I love Kevin Owens.
and it wound up
Kevin
being true. But like you also got to think that John Cena was also at this point very, very aware that he was being phased out. I'm
Yeah.
at like the United States Championship level now, and working with guys, and like my job now is to make this belt important, and it's this United States title all over again. He probably I think it's a very Aaron Rodgers thing where it's like, I am not interested in mentoring anybody. I am not interested in like that promo he cut with Roman Reigns being like, I'm here because you can't do your job.
Right.
I look at you. Like the best John Cena promos are real where he goes, I look at you, I hear you, I cannot believe they replaced me with you. I can't
Sure.
believe.
Oh, he buried Austin Theory.
I can't believe.
Yeah, he did.
Right. He
Yeah.
did. I can't believe.
That kid still hasn't recovered.
Because Austin Theory looks just like him, and John Cena had to look at his past and go, I don't look like you anymore. I am now 20-something years older than this kid. And he did, I think, have a problem just accepting that. Like that promo with Reigns is very real, where it's you're the reason that I'm not going to win anything here anymore. You. And it's like, yeesh, you know.
And so, and part of that culture, and I know this as fact, that Austin Theory was thrilled just to be in the ring with John Cena.
Yeah.
Didn't the words, the quote unquote burial didn't matter.
Yeah. Well,
But the thing
sure.
about Austin is good. He's a wonderful kid,
yeah.
I've met him before.
but his problem is that more people remember that promo than do him beating John Cena at WrestleMania.
Yeah, sure.
right.
Yeah.
And part of that is the Vince McMahon thing. And the other part of it is placement on the WrestleMania card and what they did after John Cena, which was nothing.
Yeah, and again, and that's relatively recent. So if nothing else, like John Cena, who has done the job and played the role and been the good guy to the kids, ego has still been involved here.
Oh, of course.
as
Yeah.
well, and still might be during this last run. But I think we can all agree one of the best.
I know. I'll leave this. I know very strongly that John is against 17.
I've heard that for years.
Tough.
Years.
It's not about you, John.
So 1 second. I'm glad you brought that up. I really am. It's a point that I didn't get made. It is a no-brainer for the WWE to put 17 on him because Ric Flair, like 14 of them are from other companies. You know what I mean? And Ric Flair is not the representative for this company.
This is your transition, by the way.
Ric Flair will be. Thank you. I love you. Love you. Ric Flair,
Producer thing.
forgive me, universe. Ric Flair's going to be dead in 10 years, and John Cena. Yeah, right. He definitely, and John Cena probably won't. Ric Flair, most of those are WCW and NWA World Championships, right? So if you're the company, you of course I get to control who the home run champion is. Well, if I'm the Yankees, it's going to be Aaron Judge. If I'm the Red Sox, it's going to be David Ortiz. If I'm the Mariners, it's going to be Ken Griffey. I get to pick.
Yeah,
you know
right.
what I mean? And so if you're the company, this is the dude. This is the dude. And it's almost strange because it felt like, and again, Boston sports, here we go. If you had told Larry Bird in 1986 that in 2024 the Celtics would only have 2 more championships, he'd be pretty pissed, right? Because they were winning one about every year and a half in the franchise's history. Sure. And so if you were to look at John Cena, it's like, yeah, we're on pace for about 20. And now he just kind of stops dead in his tracks. You know,
At 16.
the joke that I make off the air is like, this is 2 bottles of beer on the wall. I made you. You made me.
We already took down one of the last 2.
Exactly right. It's like you guys. How I made you. You made me hear 99 bottles of beer on the wall. There were times when it was fun. There were times when it was painful. But we got to. You're right. 1 bottle of beer on the wall. Will you finish the song?
Yeah,
you know what
right.
I mean? It's almost strange to have him tie a record you can control when the record holder isn't Triple H, Randy Orton,
It's
Edge.
not your guy.
It's not your guy. It's not Dave Bautista. It's not The Undertaker.
Also-
it's not even Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Also, NWA just doesn't exist anymore, right?
But
like,
you
yeah,
also-
they have their show, but
and you kind of want to, not only is Ric Flair, I guess, an ambassador now more for AEW, he doesn't represent you anymore. You don't want him to. There's
You
no
don't
more
want him
value
to.
in Ric Flair, and there's none of value, unfortunately, in a lot of wrestlers that insist on sticking around. And so we are going to talk about, before we jump into our SummerSlam predictions, we're going to talk about wrestlers who are the opposite of John Cena, didn't know when to go, don't know when to go, wrestling personalities that have overstayed their welcome. We all have got a couple. Eddie, who comes to mind when I tell you a wrestler that didn't know when to bow out, a la John Cena?
do we want to do all three or just one at a time?
Yeah, let's name your top three.
Okay, my first one is Kane, the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, mostly because he keeps saying terrible nonsense online, and it just makes me not really like him as a person. But prior to that, we used to talk about it on this show, that if mystery question mark person is Kane, just tell me.
Yeah, if the main event is Raw with a question mark silhouette, and
Yeah.
the answer is Big Show, Mark Henry, or Kane, just tell me.
Just tell me.
It's not going to be a fun surprise.
Yeah, it's not a
Just
fun
tell-
surprise.
Big Show, Mark Henry, Kane. If it's one of them, just tell me.
Just tell me. And that's how I feel about Kane, where it's like, obviously Glenn Jacobs hasn't been a part of the programming in a long time, but even before then, it was very much like
Corporate Kane ruined the character of Good Kane.
Yes,
It
exactly.
ruined it. It
Yeah.
ruined it.
And him just kind of being around, I don't want to see him ever again because Corporate Kane was so bad.
Kane was one of those dilemmas, I don't know, I guess happy problem is what I'll call it, where that was supposed to be a 1 to 2 month thing.
Yeah.
The Undertaker's brother returns, costs him this match against Shawn Michaels. That's how we pivot the Undertaker to do something at WrestleMania because we didn't really have a match for him. So we're going to kind of create one out of thin air, create this awesome story. Your crazy deranged brother that you tried to burn alive, you left for dead, he's back, and you're going to wrestle him at WrestleMania. You're going to win, and that's going to be the end of it. And they liked Glenn Jacobs.
Yeah.
They've wanted an outlet for him for years, between Isaac Yankem and Fake Diesel. They wanted an outlet for the performer for years. And they found one, and then they're like, you know what? This Kane thing might stick around, and then it lasted,
it was great for a long time.
He debuted in 97 and took off his mask in 03. And that would have been a great run in general. And then everything, because I loved, with a capital L, loved Kane. He was, for a while, with the mask on,
Yes.
my favorite wrestler.
He was so cool.
You and I talked about how, the invisible string theory, we were both at King of the Ring 2000.
I was rooting for him too.
Years before we even
Yeah.
knew each other. And it was like, I wanted him to win so bad, I
So
can't
bad.
describe it.
Yeah.
And so I loved him.
Him and Crash Holly.
But you're right. Corporate unmasked Kane was Corporate Kane was awful. Like, you were left for dead in a pile of ashes, and then no, you weren't. You were just so psycho. You thought you were. Okay. And now you're like a lawyer?
Yeah,
when did
right.
Kane go
Go
to
to
law
law
school? You know what I mean? Like, when did Kane go to ITT Heck?
Yeah,
You
right.
know what I mean? And get a degree in anything. And it just,
Yeah.
and what it does, you know what it is? It's How I Met Your Mother. It ended so poorly, it makes me not think
Yes.
of the good stuff
I
as
think-
well.
I think that's really my point when it comes to Kane, is that everything now is so tainted from what came immediately before that I don't want to see him ever again. There is a very fun TikTok account, though, that holds him accountable for all of the things he did as the wrestler Kane.
Perfect.
But responding to...
Is Katie Vick involved in all of this?
Not all of them,
Okay.
but sometimes when he makes a comment about current affairs, there's an account that holds him accountable as the wrestler Kane, and it's delightful. So I
right.
highly recommend that. Chris Jericho is another one on my list. I think that Chris Jericho was great as the first AEW champion. I thought it was a very smart move. He was name recognition. People could get behind him between the rockin' wrestling boat that he did and his appearances in New Japan that helped spark All In and everything. I think he was a great initial ambassador. I think the problem is that much like AEW has kind of moved on from a lot of that original talent, it has spiritually moved on from Chris Jericho, but not physically moved on from Chris Jericho.
Jericho-
The problem with Jericho is he's one of like 5 guys that Tony Khan listens to.
And he's got
Yeah.
a grip on Khan. That's the
Yes.
biggest thing is that like so.
And it's apparent.
So one of the issues, and I don't want to make this about AEW, and especially since I seem to have nothing nice to say about AEW, and I don't want to be that guy. I
Yeah.
really don't.
You're turning into Eric Bischoff quickly.
And I really don't want
So-
to. I don't root against them. I'm just trying to be observant and honest. And the thing with Tony Khan, Jimmy's entirely right. Jericho got to him early, and it's like I am because what
Yes.
Tony Khan is, God bless him, is a geek fan with a ton of money. And so if you were a geek fan and Chris Jericho's like, I'm your best friend
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
now. You're a geek fan, and Chris Jericho's your best friend, and now Chris Jericho, I just kind of feel like it's like this, like the whisperer in his ear, but also it's just
the
like
Grand Wizard of Oz.
and like a guy that just knows, like, listen, the money here is not going to last forever, and I'm going to get as much of it as
Yes.
I can, and that's what Chris
Yeah.
Jericho's really actually doing.
He's a
here.
carny's carny.
He is,
Yeah.
and he is such like. We want to talk about how I think Cody Rhodes is disingenuous.
Oh, total
that
politician,
guy.
yeah.
There's no way that Chris Jericho respects Tony Khan personally.
No.
Because I'll tell you who doesn't. Maxwell Jacob Friedman. If you think that guy personally respects his boss,
No.
you're on another planet.
Yeah.
If you don't think that that guy went on TV trying to get fired that night, that's exactly what he was trying to do. To the point where he dropped an F-bomb, so like they would almost leave him no choice.
Yeah.
They don't respect Tony Khan. They just know that he's a paycheck and a goober. And if they play nice to him, he's probably a guy that doesn't have a lot of friends anyway, yet alone the people he sees on TV.
Yeah, right.
And I just think Jericho has got to
Yeah.
that. He's like a tick.
Yeah, and it's
Do you think? Can I just
Oh,
ask
yeah.
one question? Do you think Max really gets 15 million a year?
no?
That number seems absurd
That's
to me.
I do think he makes $1 more than Moxley.
I just think that if you're talking about $15 million a year, I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, is it? I know that this company is probably paying a lot personally, but I mean, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars a week to one person.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't think anybody in the.
I do know, by the way, he has creative control.
I don't know if they have a $15 million roster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like maybe they do.
Moxley
but I
at one
mean-
point was the highest paid at 6.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Then
So
you're going to pay that
that's
guy
good.
2.5. What you're paying John Moxley?
Yeah, that's
two and a half.
So that's the thing is I didn't know
I'm
what.
sorry, a side topic, but
No,
I have
no.
so many thoughts on MJ.
Yeah.
And I wanted
I
to.
think
I'm
it's-
shocked he resigned.
because
I am
there's
too.
a part of me that thinks that MJF could have legitimately gotten 15 million from Tony Khan because of what Tony Khan feels like MJF's value is.
And you know what, Jimmy, you're right, because what we're trying to do is be like, no way, no one's worth that. And it's like, again, we're talking about a geek with money who is
Yeah.
desperately now, because you want to talk about like comparing them to WCW. Like WCW created like maybe 5 real stars of their own: Goldberg, DDP, Booker T. Those are
Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, I guess you can give him credit for Rey Mysterio and like their version of Scott Steiner. You know what I
Sure,
mean?
yeah.
Right. But AEW is trying to do the same thing, where it's like it's Hangman Page and it's kind of Britt Baker, but they really, really wanted MJF to be one of those guys, and they desperately, desperately don't want to lose him. And maybe they overpaid him because they already have. They wanted to keep Jade Cargill.
Yeah.
They wanted to keep Jade Cargill, and they already lost her. And she kind of immediately went on TV and was
also
like, "This is
think-
better. This is better." And they don't want to do that every time with their people.
I also think that they have mentally lost John Moxley. I don't think he's much.
Oh yeah, he wanted nothing to do with that IWGP belt.
Yeah.
Well, I also just don't think AEW. I mean, like if you're
And Moxley, by the way, is somebody who I also believe that has Tony Khan's ear.
Well, if you're Moxley, right, and your best friends are like, brother, it's a whole new ball game here. It's such good shit. Guy is gone. Everything's different. Everything feels better and different. You're not walking back into Vince McMahon's Raw. You should come back. There's something here for you. And Moxley knows how much money he didn't make by doing a Shield thing last week. WrestleMania weekend. He knows that. He knows how much money is in a Shield reunion. And to WWE's credit, they refused to fake Diesel him and be like, remember when the Shield was Rollins and Reigns
We
and
brought back Chris Hero.
yeah, right, yeah, and it was Chris Hero all along. Or like, it's Chad Gable, and it's like, nope, they haven't done it till they get all 3, and there's money to be made there.
Yeah.
Really
I'm
quick-
sorry I sidetracked
No.
you from the
Speaking
Jericho
of 3,
thing.
who is your third?
My third one is Jim Ross. And Jim Ross and Jericho, kind of like when I talked about earlier, and I talked about Peyton Manning and how like one day Peyton Manning just wasn't good at NFL football anymore, but didn't mean that he was bad at football. Jim Ross and Jericho are in the same boat for me, where it's your whole thing is AEW need to be your own identity. And it was great to have these guys in the beginning. It was great when Jim Ross was starting to do the Wrestle Kingdoms, when he would do the English broadcast, because we hadn't really heard Jim Ross prior to that. Hearing Jim Ross on AEW just feels wrong.
It's passed him by. What his greatest strength was? Jim Ross's greatest strength was knowing the concept of the rivalry and then adding to it, right? Yeah. Whether it be like, one of my favorite calls ever, which is Hogan going up in the air on the Rock and the big leg and Jim Ross screaming, he beat Andre the Giant with that move. And like Jim Ross would narrate the intentions of the wrestlers, like when Triple H was at his the regime, the Hunter McMahon regime, like he would tell me why Triple H was doing this, and he no longer can watch a match and construct it and add and fill in those gaps. He's just sort of trying to remember everybody's name.
Yes.
So Jim Ross also made it personal. So he had personal connections to the guys more so in WWF.
Yeah.
In WWF.
He loved Steve Austin as his friend.
Right?
Yeah.
So that helped get Steve Austin over. Now it's like Jim Ross in AEW, he had a personal connection with Punk, with Moxley, because I know Moxley wanted JR on the call of his matches. So when Jim Ross has a personal connection with somebody, that's when he's at his best.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't have that with guys like...
And he's trying to figure out, he's
Swerve
on it.
Strickland, who is the star you should be.
No connection with him.
And you have no connection, and so your match calls feel flat.
And what JR used to be, too, is JR was not only the commentator, but he was a big, big part of creative, right? He was Vince McMahon's right-hand guy.
He knew the direction, where Vince wanted to go.
He knew what we wanted you to be. So I know not only like who you are and who you're trying to be, I know how I'm supposed to present you.
Yes.
And he's not sharp enough or invested to that level where he can no longer, like I said, add to it. He just sort of watches, reacts, tries not to say something outdatedly sexist, remember your name, and move on.
Yeah.
And try to drop his high spots in there.
And get in slobber knockers if he can, and they still make sense.
Yeah.
JR's a great
So
pick.
those are them, again, because I think that all three of them are all-timers, without a question. And at no point do I think that, with the exception of Kane, I don't think that what they're doing currently is damaging their legacy. But I do think that it is time to move on. And for Jericho and Jim Ross's, respectively, AEW needs to move on from them.
You're totally right.
In order for AEW to evolve, because again, they were really, really important. I really needed you to start watching this show, and having names and voices and hearing things that you remember from WWE that you liked is important. But we have moved on.
And Jericho won that belt, and I agree with you. Great first champion.
Yeah.
People have heard of him. He can breed the next person. We work the talent. Great quarterback. But now he's the FTW champion beating Hook. No, Hook beats you, man. You're 60, and he needs these
Unless
wins.
Hook is going to NXT in 3 months.
But then don't do the match.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? That's what I mean.
Agreed.
It's like Jericho holding the FTW title and going over people now. You're right. Just because a decision was good 5 years ago doesn't mean it has to be continued to date, as this guy is pushing 60 years old.
Yeah.
And I think that's an outstanding point.
Well, especially because, again, and I don't want to bash AEW, but I think that this is the turning point for them more specifically. Like, you needed these guys in the way that TNA needed Jeff Hardy and Sting and Kurt Angle.
But you got to fly on your own eventually.
But you have to eventually build Samoa Joe and AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels to have people be a part of it. You have those guys in AEW, but having these older relics still around and still prominently featured on your programming really...
And a guy that will be featured later on in the show when we talk about SummerSlam more. Don't disrupt what CM Punk did to that company.
Oh, he threw it into chaos.
Hangman Page will never be the same guy in that company. Darby Allin will never be the same guy in that company. Jungle Boy? That guy's career is over. That guy's career is over. You will be the guy that got choked out by CM Punk forever. They already give you... Your fans give him trouble for that in the crowd. And make that guy... like. CM Punk did so much more harm than good there. That it is almost incalculable how much different, not better or worse, but just different they would be if he never came there at all.
Yeah.
At all.
Well, that's what I said when he first came, right? I was like, this is a bad choice because you're in this TNA era where you have the ability to morph into your own identity, but associating with CM Punk is going to stunt that growth.
But it was the right choice in that moment. And had they kept him special attraction,
Sure.
he would have been fine, I think.
Putting the title on
He's
him?
also a geek, though. He's also a geek. I mean, dude, you are at the end of your career. You failed at UFC.
This is what I came here for.
You failed at comic books. You failed at everything. You are not a fighter. You're not this guy. You are wrestler CM Punk, or you are nothing relevant at all. All you had to do was go to AEW, play nice, play along, put a couple guys over, get your championship, not decide that this was going to be an ego project for you and I'm going to show you, like, just cash the check, guy. WWE, you had an opportunity to go from WWE and leaving not on your terms to going to their competitor, sticking it up their ass a little bit, having a nice year or two, making a lot of money, winning another belt, working with some kids, working with your friends, just having a nice run and end wrestling on your terms. And Phil Brooks is just incapable of being a decent human being. And don't tell me like, the recent reports say WWE's thrilled with him. Dude, this is the very, very, very last shot you will ever get at anything ever, 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 ever. And you've already let them down and got hurt. So yeah, you better not be a dick right now, man. You've been back for 7 months and wrestled twice, and this is your last shot. And you're trying to make me be like, wow, he isn't a huge raging jerk back there. Thanks, Punk. You know what I mean? Like, that guy. And I get that it's a disruptive place, but of course, CM Punk had to walk back there and be like, this is about me. This is about me. He looked at 5'8", 170-pound Jack Perry and was like, let's go. Let's do this. You're so cool, man. You're so tough. You're so cool. This is a glorified indie run by a nerd, and you had to make everything about you and you suck. Anyway, Jimmy,
I'm good. I'm going home now. I'm out. I got what I got.
We came for.
Well, then I'll go for my 3.
Yeah.
Jimmy's got. Jimmy, who do you got as 3 people? I'm sure CM Punk's not on the list, who have overstayed their welcome in this year.
Oh, that was great. That's the real reason I came here. I just like hearing you yell about CM Punk.
The guy, I mean, you want to talk
There it
about
is.
you?
See what I did?
I mean, are you kidding me? This would be like if Manny Ramirez was like,
Can
know
you
what?
at least tell us that we're about to wrap up so all of our fans know that we have 2 more hours left?
Well, this is like if
2 more hours.
Well, can you imagine?
That's how it goes on this show.
Well, can you imagine if Manny Ramirez was like, I'm gonna join the Savannah Bananas, and you'll be like,
I'm usually toes up by now.
and it's like,
Sure.
that'll be fun, right? Manny Ramirez on the Savannah Bananas. That'll be a fun way for him to end his baseball career. And it's like, no, this is about me. And by the end of it, we will be the Savannah Ramirez's. And it's just like, guy, they're the Bananas. You know what I mean? And it's just like CM Punk went back there and looked again. And what a tough guy. Looked at Jack Perry and was like, you're the guy I'm going to fight. Whoa, dude, I'm so impressed. You're
Mr. Stewart,
We're still learning here, Jason.
just like, that you beat up that 8th grader. I can't believe it.
Or Chris.
You're
Are you Jason or Chris?
We're Chris on this
I'm sorry.
one. Jimmy,
apologies.
who do you got as 3 guys that have stuck around too long as we stick around way too long?
Big Show,
Sure.
Paul White, Shane McMahon,
Sure.
and Goldberg.
No, well, Goldberg's not a
And
bad
Goldberg
answer.
was not his fault, by the way.
Goldberg is not a bad
And
answer.
that's actually the one that I want to focus on, not because it creates a debate between us, because I actually think we agree with this.
Big Show, just really quick, the Big Show physically is, I mean, he's like
He just had double knee surgery.
lumbering
Yeah.
around. I mean, Irish whips look painful for this guy at this point. It's just way too long. And like you said, the thing about like the Big Show is, don't get me wrong, when you see him, if you go to a wrestling show, you'll never forget the first time you see him. The first time I ever saw the Big Show in person was the 2003 Royal Rumble, and I remember it was Brock Lesnar versus the Big Show, and I'll say this every time, it looked like a garage was fighting a house, right? Brock Lesnar versus the Big Show, okay? And the first time you see this guy in person, you're like, I've just never seen a guy that big. It's
Yeah, right.
amazing.
I was ringside in Worcester for Nitro when Kurt Hennig gave him the perfect plex.
Oh, amazing.
And I was on the corner, and it's the high five thing, and I'm in high school. His finger was no joke,
Right.
like the size of 2, and I'm 6'4" and 280 pounds, and I have pretty good sized fingers, but his one finger was the size of 2 of my fingers.
And the thing with him, like, so who's the comp? Andre the Giant, okay? To the point where WCW wanted you to think he was this kid. Anyway, the point
Andre's
is,
a little overrated.
well, the thing with Andre, though, is it's two things with Andre. Andre was bigger, right? So there is even more of a whoa factor. Paul White was a much better professional wrestler than Andre the Giant, a much better athlete. Like, we're going to talk about Goldberg, and one of Goldberg's greatest highlights is jackhammering that guy, and Paul White does a lot of the work.
Young days Andre, though, I'm always told, was like a great athlete.
just wasn't on
When it
TV.
was like
Right.
385, 400,
and it comes-
he could do drop kicks and all that stuff.
And it comes right back to the Flair Dusty thing, where if you go town to town and you see Andre the Giant with your own 2 eyes at the Sportatorium, you cannot believe you've never seen a human being that big. You can't believe it. But Andre wasn't on TV every week. You didn't go to Raw all the time. You didn't go to you know what I mean? So the spectacle and rarity of it was there more with Andre. The Big Show, very, very, very big man. Unfortunately, also a jobber most of his
Yeah.
career in that company.
They didn't know how to use him.
So
which is wild because Vince was doing Andre's bookings.
So beating him wasn't even that big of a deal by the end of
They
it.
beat him his first night in, like Stunner to Austin the week before WrestleMania 15, and you've beaten the Big Show.
But let's talk about Goldberg.
Just
Yeah, please go.
and a quick thing on Shane McMahon.
Yeah.
The reason why I say Shane McMahon overstayed his welcome was because his last 2 appearances, one, he blows out his quad, which isn't necessarily his fault, but the one before that where in St. Louis, he's trying to book himself to win the Royal Rumble match.
Right.
Like, that blows my mind.
It's like Shane McMahon. Like,
That he comes in and he's like, yeah, Raw Underground, like, it was a great idea, and they used it for the one-off match in NXT, but, like, it didn't really work. But here I am, book me to win the Royal Rumble. And Brock Lesnar's reaction to throwing him and Matt Riddle out of the ring was just an exclamation point on, like, what Brock Lesnar thought of Shane McMahon just coming in here and be like, yep, I'm going to win the Rumble. Nobody will see that coming. It's like, no, there goes the money.
illogical. And unfortunately, I popped hard for Shane McMahon's return, and unfortunately, it ultimately sort of fell flat. We never got the lockbox.
lockbox.
He lost to the
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The 32.
Like the lockbox, he lost to the Undertaker. The lockbox was just never ever pursued ever again after that loss. And
No,
then-
he released it in real life.
well, yeah, now we
A bunch of people.
yeah, we found out. You're
That's
right.
really what happened.
Shane-
when he's like, I'm not getting the company. You know what? I'm going to give this to real legal people.
Shane-
and the
right.
New York Times
I-
and so many other people.
I like to think in kayfabe, Shane McMahon respected the stipulation of the match for a couple years. He's like, damn, I can't reveal the lockbox. And then you're right. He's like, I'm out of here. Never mind.
As soon as I
Wait a
blew up
minute,
my
he
quad,
sex trafficked a woman.
as soon as I blew up my quad, you know what? That lockbox, that's going to be left on the New York Times desk.
But you know what?
New
Let's
York guy.
let's talk about Goldberg, because Bill
Yeah.
Goldberg is my personal favorite wrestler.
I know.
He is like, I consider him somebody that, like, I know personally. He invited us to his Hall of Fame
It's amazing.
ceremony. Just like he knows what he means to me and what he meant to me growing up. He gets it and he cares about it. I will always be a Bill Goldberg fan forever. But there's no doubt that what should have ended was WrestleMania in Orlando, 33. You're 33.
Yep.
And it's multifold. So just here's a little inside pool as somebody who's talked to Goldberg about this. Goldberg was scheduled to come back to promote the video game that he was going to be the cover guy on, lose to Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series, fade and get his Hall of Fame ceremony. He got there, and Heyman and Lesnar were the guys that came and said, hey, we can get multiple matches out of this. Why don't we even have you just squash Brock so we don't expose you for anything, catch everybody off guard, and do it again? WWE was on board. He gained so much momentum, it was able to be for a championship level. He beat Kevin Owens, whether you like it or not, because
didn't
Lesnar
like it.
because Lesnar and Goldberg was more sellable and the better match than Jericho and Owens.
Well, that's layered too.
But that match wouldn't have been better if they was for a championship. They should have been trying their best no matter what.
It would have
true.
been.
They should have been trying their best
You're
no
not
matter
wrong.
what.
You're not wrong.
Well, you would have been better if the belt was on the line. No. This is WrestleMania. Do your best.
The story though had been building, and y'all are big on storytelling, right? The fellowship of friendship, all that was building towards not the second match on the show for the U.S. title, but for, probably on that show, Taker, Roman. Sadly, Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton wasn't what we all thought it was.
No.
Brock,
That was the maggots on the ring.
Yes,
Yes.
it sure was.
Yep.
That somehow Orton could see.
But your big matches, Jericho and Owens, for what they were doing and what they were building, should have been a bottom 3 match on that show, a main event match on that show. And it should not have been the second match for the U.S. title.
But then, just to be fair, though, yeah, it did. They stunk. And if you're telling me, and I'm not saying you, but if Jericho and Owens are going to try to convince me they would have had a better match later on in the card, what a terrible... This is WrestleMania.
They would have had more time.
This is Owens' first Mania. You've got a lot to prove. You're already not Vince McMahon's cup of tea, body-wise. You got a lot to prove. You're Chris Jericho. You're the point guard here.
Sure.
And if, again, I don't give a career veteran, and Kevin Owens, who's also a veteran presence, there's no reason why, even if they're pissed, like what you should have done was said, hey, we're on second, we're going to prove them wrong. And they proved them right. They proved them right.
Yeah.
If that was for the Universal title, that went on second to last, stinker. Goldberg and Lesnar were better. And because I'm such a Goldberg guy, here's what happened, just as in a nutshell of it. Goldberg came back. Even the promo was perfect.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar, you're last,
Yeah.
right? And he should have lost to Brock and gone away. And then what happened that very same night, WrestleMania 33, was that Goldberg looked good as an older, legendary return guy, and The Undertaker looked as bad as he could have as a return legendary guy. That night, the WWE had to decide that if we're going to have a return special occasion match, if it's not Triple H, which is he's phasing into something else, I guess it's
His heart won't
Goldberg.
let him.
The Rock isn't.
at
We
this
can't
point.
can't afford The Rock. It's not going to be Steve Austin. Undertaker can't do it anymore.
Triple H is
Shawn's
having
done.
30-minute matches that are just way too long with Seth Rollins and Roman the year before.
And how many times is the executive guy going to be on the card? You know what I mean? Because that's what he was at
Yeah,
WrestleMania
that's right.
33. He was the champion executive, right? That how many? There's just not much juice left in those squeezes. And so with Goldberg, it literally just became. This is a part of WWE. The Undertaker's been doing it for 10 years, but when we need somebody, Shawn can't do it, Rock can't do it, Taker can't do it. It's you. You're the
it.
legend
But the
guy.
reality of that whole buildup was Goldberg really couldn't do it because he was trying to cover up injuries.
And
that
50.
he had- the age thing is part of it, but Goldberg was injured going into, I think, everything. And that's him training a certain way. That's just being 50. And so, like, if Goldberg's last match was 33 against Brock, perfect ending. But, I mean, I honestly, if I'm Bill Goldberg and I get offered stupid money to, spend 72 hours in Saudi Arabia, to and from, this one-off match with McIntyre, this one-off match here, losing to Braun Strowman, things like that.
Squashing Dolph Ziggler.
Right? But, like, I'm not going to say no to that. The thing that I
right.
might have said no to was if I had COVID and I'm getting in the ring with Roman Reigns, who has all these health issues, I'm sorry, like, people's health is more important than
Of course it is.
the $10 million that the Saudi prince is giving me.
Of course it is.
And I'm sorry, but, like, you have to wait on your match with Roman. I know it was delayed because of the pandemic, but, like, you got to delay it again. And that's where he should have said no, and he got porked over because Vince never gave him his actual farewell match, and he lied to him. But
And the thing with WWE too, with
the idea is that Goldberg overstaying his welcome is not his fault.
and Goldberg also, like, what WWE fell in love with was like the on paper Goldberg stuff, right? Goldberg does the spear, and so does Roman Reigns. Let's have the spear guys wrestle when they both need certain opponents, and Goldberg just it's done. Like. We talked about this off the air, but this is my last point on Goldberg, right? Because I agree with you that
It's not his fault.
Goldberg had a very rare opportunity to Elway this thing, where he spent his whole career being told he can't wrestle. His best match was Lesnar at 33. That was his best match of his career.
I agree with that.
And he couldn't just Elway the thing and leave. But with Goldberg, you're right. It's tough to say no to the money. Yeah. He probably really believed in his heart and soul he could do it every single individual time.
Because he's an athlete. He's a real athlete.
He is, and he took pride in it. But like we talked about this off the air, the problem with Bill Goldberg is when you look at the highlights of who Goldberg was, the best of Goldberg, it is giving the jackhammer to the Big Show. It is doing that amazing gorilla slam, land on your shoulder. Like, it's strength. Because Goldberg in 1998 was 31 years old and strong as, like, freakishly strong. And that doesn't age well. And when you're not freakishly strong anymore, then there's nothing left.
Your three.
I'm going to
quickly.
name 3 people. Then we're going to get to what we're excited about. We're not going to do the cover.
We're already in an hour.
We're in overtime.
Yeah.
No, you're closing in on 2 hours.
We're all right. Here's my top 3, and I want to focus on one very quickly because of Bill Goldberg. It's a perfect parlay. So my 3 that have greatly overstayed their welcome. Ric Flair, you almost died. You almost died.
Multiple times.
It is time for you to go. That last match was an abomination. I can't believe that you're even thinking about doing it again. Ric Flair,
Yep.
you're not famous anymore. You're
You
not.
also keep appearing in the news in bad ways.
Right. You're now just getting drunk at bars and getting kicked out. Ric Flair, it's over. It's
That
over.
was a wild video.
Yeah, it's over. It's over. It's over. My second pick of wrestlers who have just greatly overstayed their welcome are Hulk Hogan, both
Yeah.
politically and the entire TNA run was damaging. Not knowing when to walk away is something that reflects on even the good days. And so Hulk Hogan in TNA was stupid. Hulk Hogan in the fact that he still thinks his close-minded, unpopular opinions are worth stating, and the fact that he still thinks he is
A
Hulk.
cultural touchstone.
The problem is that people are paying him for those opinions.
You're right.
Oh,
but,
sure.
but the thing
'Cause
is,
he's
though,
a politician.
but
Oh yeah,
you gotta
they're all
understand-
carnies and politicians.
Yeah.
that at one point this country had a nasty case of Hulkamania, and we got over it.
Yeah.
And the guy I want to focus on really quick before just talking about like what we're excited
Yeah,
for
sure.
SummerSlam is Bret the Hitman Hart, and here's a specific reason. Bret obviously didn't have a chance to overstay his welcome in the ring, right?
Yes.
Because he got kicked in the head by Bill Goldberg, and that was the end of his career, even though he wrestled like two more times after that.
There's also, I think Brett knocked himself out on the figure 4 around the ring post.
Well, Bill Goldberg had been wrestling for about a year, and he made a mistake, and you didn't do your job taking the kick. And here's why I want to bring up Bret Hart, and I'm going to bring up something that might sound a little, ooh, but I'm going to do it. So, Bret Hart, Vince McMahon killed his brother. He was negligent. He cut costs and he hired a rigging company to use improper equipment and was unsafe and is criminally is criminally negligible. He paid Martha Hart $8 million. I'll take Ray. He paid Martha Hart $8 million because they messed up that night. Okay? And Bret Hart worked for the WWE again, seems to be okay with Vince McMahon enough to take his money and show up on Raw. And Shawn Michaels humiliates you on TV, humiliates you, knew what was going to happen, put you in your own move, had the bell ring, humiliates you, right? It's a defining moment of your career and the last match you had in that company, if we don't count the stupid street
ladder
fight,
thing?
right? So
Won the U.S. title also over Miz.
That's true.
So Vince McMahon can cut corners and be responsible for your brother's death and keep a show going, right? Making workers wrestle in a match with your brother's blood on the stain on the canvas, okay? Shawn Michaels can hatch a coup and humiliate you, and those two men can be forgiven. Right? They can be forgiven for being responsible for the death of your brother and for being the last thing that happened in a company you busted your ass for. They can be forgiven. I can move on from that. Bill Goldberg, a wrestler who's green, had been working for a year, made a mistake, and kicked you in the side of the head accidentally, has apologized over and over and over and over and over again, and you can't get over it. Yeah. So here's what I'm going to ask Bret the Hitman Hart, right? If you got kicked in the head by Mike Thomas, if you got kicked in the head by John Cena, Randy Orton, Vince McMahon, Shawn Michaels, do you forgive him quicker than you forgive a guy named Bill Goldberg?
Yeah, I think it's
do you forgive him quicker than you forgive a guy named Bill Goldberg, who you can't so you can't seem to get over this? You can't seem to get over Bill Goldberg making a mistake, because let me tell you something, brother. If a man apologizes to you and means it and has apologized to you for 20 years and you can't accept a heartfelt apology for a mistake, you're less of a man. Not Bill Goldberg, who you also, every time you mention him, make sure you use his full name, Bill Goldberg, and you can't seem to forgive him. Shawn Michaels is off the hook. Vince McMahon is off the hook. Bill Goldberg, wink, wink, seems to be an unforgivable sinner. And I'm wondering if Mike Mizanin or John Cena or Drew McIntyre would be as unforgivable as Bill Goldberg.
I bet you Maxwell Jacob Friedman
Yeah.
would.
Well, I bet you that he might not be able to kick Bret Hart in the head and get away with it either, is what I'm telling you. And that I have thought about this for a long time.
You know what? I haven't thought about that. I don't like Bret Hart. I think that Bret Hart has overstayed.
But you get
his
what I'm
welcome.
saying?
I do get what you're saying.
Who he can forgive and who
Yes.
he seemed to not be
Yeah.
able to.
Yeah, the
get
born-again Christian?
Yeah. Do you
and
get-
not the Jewish guy?
Yeah. Do you get
Yeah.
what I'm putting down? That
I-
Bill Goldberg seems to have a real tough time here.
Bret Hart also has this weird thing. Maybe he did get kicked in the head so hard that he thought he was going to pick up right where he left off from the WWF.
Right.
And because that was a career-ending injury, he just can't. He can't get over what could have been.
He was at the finish line
I
of a
know.
company he hated being at.
Yes. Oh, I know.
You know?
Yeah. I never thought of that, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, I've thought about it a lot because, again, if Goldberg had, in interviews and stuff was like, screw you, Brett, didn't mean to, I don't care. He
Yeah.
apologizes profusely. And again, I just can't imagine
Yeah,
how Vince McMahon can get off the hook and Shawn Michaels can get off the hook and Bill Goldberg can't.
Yeah.
It's always been interesting to me.
Interesting. That was an interesting poet,
Yeah.
and we can't unpack it here.
And he's just a grumpy old grump
He is.
who
I don't
won't
like
let
him.
go of anything. Jimmy, what are you most excited for SummerSlam 2024?
Before we get on out of
Oh,
here.
I'm most excited for the idea that Cody Rhodes could lose to Solo.
Do you,
Yeah.
think, do you think he will?
I think so.
Hope so.
I think
I
so.
What do
really
you think will be
hope
the
so.
most consequential outcome? Does Rhea Ripley beat Liv Morgan? Does Cody Rhodes lose to Solo?
I'm just going to jump in real quick there
Yeah.
because I believe that we're going to get back on track to where we were after WrestleMania. I think Rhea Ripley wins her championship back. She's now the champion. The Bloodline has all the gold again, and we kind of move forward with what the plan was there.
Is Rhea Ripley the most sellable female in WWE history?
Yes.
Because she can work. Sable can't work. Trish Stratus, she's just better at everything than Trish Stratus was. God bless her soul. Is she the most marketable, sellable? Is it China? Is it her? I think she.
I wouldn't discount Lita.
Lita's not a bad answer at all. I just
Yeah.
think Rhea Ripley is the kind of person where, like, your boyfriend has a crush on her, your girlfriend has a crush
Yes.
on her. She can work. She's young. She's so
She's
you-
a great person.
She's a better
like,
worker.
amazing
She's
person.
a better worker than China. She has a more distinct look than Trish Stratus. She's
More personality on her
She's-
promos and her deliveries. Everything means something.
She's
when Rhea
awesome.
The
Ripley-
thing with Rhea Ripley is in a
She might be the
landscape-
John Cena of the women's division.
She's awesome.
in
like,
all of
she's-
the women that exist in the WWE currently, they all have this like pseudo Valley Girl personality, and so Rhea steps out even more than just her visual look. Everything about her, and the way that she speaks, because words mean things, is when she finally forgave Dominic Mysterio a couple of weeks ago, she looks at him and she goes, "I'm nobody's. You're mine." And it's just like, holy shit.
And it's so on character for that
Yeah.
mommy character.
Yes.
To be like, she's basically this sort of like dom, not
Possessive.
Right, exactly. Like she's in charge. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, and that is such
I want
a great
her
line.
every single week. I want her to beat up some guy.
That's such a great line, though. Like, I am not your property, but you are mine.
You are mine.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
But so it's like, I think that we need to kind of recalculate because I love what they're doing with Damian Priest as well, because Damian Priest has been going through this story of trying to prove himself as a champion, and he's falling out of the bloodline, not the bloodline, he's falling
Judgment Day.
out of the Judgment Day, not because of jealousy. We've seen jealousy happen 1,000,001 times, and so that story's old and played out. This is the first time that I can recall that the champion is like, guys, I really want to do this myself. And like, I keep having these opportunities to do it myself, and then weird ass things out of my control keep happening, and I just happen into wins, and I don't feel good about it. And I love that. And I love this story. And while Gunther is fantastic, I think that his time will come, but I think that Damian Priest gets a real statement win here this weekend, and the Judgment
They're high
Day,
on him. They're high on
Yeah.
him.
They are super high on him. And Triple H has been high on him since his Ring of Honor days.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and he
And the Bad Bunny match at Backlash last year got to validate Triple H's belief in Damian Priest.
and it's also just it's good for the company to have somebody where it's just like not every champion looks like Cody Rhodes or Cody Rhodes
Yeah.
adjacent. You know what I mean?
And it also helps that Damian's like a really good person too.
I've heard that
Yeah.
when
I
he
can
was,
firsthand account to that.
I know that when he was in Ring of Honor and we were had some friends that were active in the company between Warbeard and Dijak and stuff, they had nothing but good things to say about him. Same thing unfortunately with the Briscoes, but that's its whole other thing.
But yeah, so that's the thing that I'm really excited about. We're those two, because I think that there's going to be a lot of implications, right? I always talk about how SummerSlam is the mid-season finale that sets up the second half of the season for real important stuff, and I think that we're going to see that again with this SummerSlam. Triple H has talked about how he's really focusing on making sure that SummerSlam means something again, so much so that it's going to be 2 nights. So I think that this is going to be a real statement SummerSlam.
The 2 nights thing is more about business than anything else because they porked Minnesota on a WrestleMania.
Sure.
So they could do it at Vegas. But I want to get back to the Rhea Ripley thing for a second because I think there is an outcome where Rhea Ripley wins back her championship, but Dom ends up with Liv Morgan.
Okay.
Because if you look at the story that they're telling, Liv Morgan has helped Dominic be successful this last few months. He gets a win over Ray.
Yeah.
He treats her like a person. She treats him like a person as opposed to a possession like Rhea does. JD McDonough and Finn Balor get back the tag team titles because of Liv Morgan. So there's a story and there's a divide there, and there's a way that they can have Rhea win the championship so that all the members of Judgment Day, except for Dom, have championships, and Liv can still walk out with Dom.
Okay.
I don't know how it is.
Yeah, sure.
But I think that there's a play there. With Damian Priest, I think he retains because I think they do a return at Bash in Berlin.
Yeah.
They got to do something with Gunther where he's in a prime spot. I think it's Gunther versus Dragunov somehow at Bash in Berlin, and how they get there, I'm not sure. The idea of Solo winning and beating Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
People think that that's blasphemous, right? But what it does is...
I'd be shocked.
Remember, so Kane beat Steve Austin a few months after Steve Austin had his WrestleMania moment at 14. Austin got it back the next night, but it didn't hurt Steve Austin. And it helped bring Kane up to another level. You could do a short-term story where Solo wins, Solo's the champion. They're going to put the tag straps on the rest of the bloodline at some point. If it's not SummerSlam, it's the night before SummerSlam.
Yeah,
on
we're
SmackDown.
recording this on the Monday before SummerSlam, just so everybody knows. And I believe the tag team title match is Friday in Japan.
There doesn't
Sure.
that detail doesn't really
Sure.
matter as far as I'm concerned. But they're going to have the bloodline, I think, with all the gold, at least short term. Bad Blood is in Atlanta in October. That's when I would guess that Cody would get it back.
Okay.
So let me, and I don't disagree with you theoretically, but let me just kind of throw
Because if Solo beats Cody, he's got the big belt. It establishes little brother is now big brother.
This also is a good idea because
Write down what you were going to say.
if Solo
I got you.
if Solo wins here and we have October be Bad Blood, it's not Hell in a Cell named the pay-per-view. So building and having Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa in a Hell in a Cell, they're locked in, they hate each other. Cody can win it back there.
in his hometown of
Yeah.
Atlanta.
Yeah. So I don't hate it.
So what I will kind of butt you on
Please
one
do.
of the things is I know exactly what you're talking about.
Good
With
for
Steve,
business.
it's 98. Steve Austin wins the championship finally, and he loses to Kane. The thing is, when he lost to Kane in that match, it was a first blood match that Austin lost on a technicality. I think Undertaker, somebody got in there or hit him with something.
Oh, yeah. It was Taker cracked him with a chair.
Yeah.
Accidentally.
And so Kane wins a stipulation match that Austin even got protected with a stipulation without needing to be pinned. So the next night when it's finally let's have a match, Austin wins pretty easily. Cody loses a ton of momentum if he gets pinned.
But I think that Cody Rhodes losing in bloodline fashion is important here, right?
Already, though?
Yeah.
He's been the champion for just a couple months. I don't think we're done.
But Cody also had a failing feud against AJ Styles, which I think he wanted to fight AJ because of the ties.
Bullet Club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bullet Club thing. I think he just wanted that unique match. I think that story flopped, and Cody is now starting to kind of like, he's not wrestling on TV. Where's the criticism of that? Where's the criticism of him not defending the title? All I heard for 4 years was Roman doesn't fight enough. Roman doesn't defend the title enough. Where's Cody?
So, in the other point that I want to make, because I get like Kane did beat Austin, but didn't really take. I would say he didn't take any of Steve's momentum.
No, and in this scenario, you don't have to.
And the other point that I'll make is, shy of Jinder Mahal, who was a complete business decision.
My champion,
right? They you're the guy. They
and Carabas.
They don't mess around with that top belt like that. Like, I'm not telling you that Solo Sikoa will never be the WWE champion.
Yeah.
I don't think that guy is going to get hot shotted the belt months after Cody Rhodes. I don't see it personally. They just don't mess around with that belt like that.
But the chase,
Yeah.
the chase,
Yeah,
the
because
chase for Cody to get back, and however he gets screwed over, maybe Roman helps Solo.
See, I actually
I
think
will give you this detail. WWE has an order to create more merchandise for Roman Reigns. So usually when that stuff happens, Roman's coming back sooner, or wrestlers coming back sooner.
See, if anything, I would think that if Solo Sikoa were to beat Cody Rhodes for this championship, that would lead to a babyface returning Reigns to, right this guy who's tried to take over everything while he's been gone.
But that's and I'm not trying to do the swerve for the sake of a swerve, but if you go through the history of the bloodline stuff, Roman has said at different points that Solo's the guy to take over.
Yeah, Solo's next.
As the tribal chief.
But
So
not
Roman
but
comes
not
out-
while I'm the man.
So Roman comes out and we're all like, oh, he's going to hit Cody. Or I'm sorry, he's going to hit Solo because he wants his tribal chief spot back. When he hits Cody and helps Solo win and then raises the hand, and then they tell a story that way. It's like, well, where does Paul Heyman lie in all this? Because he told Solo.
His logo is a Reigns.
There's another. The story arc can go so many different directions, and that's the great thing about.
Because you'd think that
WWE.
Heyman's loyalty is to Reigns.
I think
Yes.
that the story of what happens from now to WrestleMania, SummerSlam to WrestleMania, is more interesting with Solo winning.
Let me ask you.
The bloodline, the new bloodline, is just so interesting right now.
So let me hotshot a question that we're already kind of answering, I guess. Whoever did the graphics, great job. You have the ghostly image of Roman Reigns kind of hanging over this entire show. Do we see Roman Reigns at this event?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. But
I think it's the only way Cody loses.
I feel like it's going to happen. And that's such a wishy-washy
I
answer. I don't think so, but I think I want it. And I think that's why I'm like wishy-washy with it.
We're either
'Cause I miss
going.
my tribal chief.
Sure.
I don't think Roman Reigns is coming back. I do think that we might see The Rock. Because I think if anybody's going to cost Cody Rhodes and kind of shift that story, Cody Rhodes and The Rock.
And don't underestimate either. It's a long walk between here and Mania, especially, people.
Yeah.
What we always like to do is fall into the trap where it's like there's two big shows, so the next one's Mania. It is, but it's in like 8 months. You know what I
Sure.
mean? So
Hunter's
like,
got 80% of it done until he doesn't.
So-
right. It's like 8 or 9, 10 months, right?
Right.
So I don't even discredit that being true. And then The Rock facing Cody Rhodes for the People's Championship at
Yeah.
WrestleMania, and having Cody be crowned the People's Champion at WrestleMania. There's
Yeah.
a belt, you know what I mean?
Right.
So like and that could definitely start on
and
Sunday.
so now I think
Saturday,
that you
whatever.
have, because you kind of got to pull it out, right?
Yeah.
And so SummerSlam, you have Solo win. Then I don't know how we get there, but it is Roman, the Usos, and Sammy versus this new bloodline at War Games in Survivor Series. Roman wins the Royal Rumble, or whatever nonsense he has to do, because if John Cena wins the Royal Rumble, he wins the other thing. But either way, it's now
Elimination
it's
Chamber.
Solo Sikoa versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. If The Rock returns at SummerSlam to help Solo, now it's Cody versus The Rock, and that card still is very huge, very looming, and we still kind of got everybody doing something important. At least that's the way I see it.
I don't discredit the idea of Cody versus The Rock for the People's Championship at
Yeah.
WrestleMania at all.
Because they did that weird belt swap thing on the Raw after.
And I think what happened was they had that segment where he in kayfabe gave Cody the watch back. You know what I mean? I think that's what he gave him when he handed him something, and it kind of seemed to bother Cody or catch him off guard. Remember that segment the night after
it's
WrestleMania?
It's a part of the belt thing.
Because they know now they're doing this really cool thing where they're blurring lines. So they know, Cody gave everybody a Rolex, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing Cody did. The Rock, Roman Reigns, and Cody Rhodes, and I think Paul Heyman have 4 custom, these identical Rolexes, right?
Yeah.
And what I think the storyline is going to be is The Rock gave it back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's
As opposed to in real life, Roman put it in the trash.
Yeah, sure.
I don't discredit that either. But like the point being that I think that Cody and The Rock could be on a collision course. It frees up the belt. We talked about John Cena earlier. We talked about Sikoa. We talked about Reigns. And I don't think that's impossible at all. One thing I want to talk about, because there is another big star, just for the sake of how long the show has gone.
You're welcome.
There is a big star who I don't think, as far as like in the ring, unfortunately, has had, whether you want to blame him, the opportunity to, whatever. CM Punk is going to take on Drew McIntyre. This is like CM Punk's like second match in the company after coming back in January.
4th.
What are your expectations
This
for
match
CM?
is going to stink.
What are your
so sad about
What are
it.
your expectations for their match and CM Punk's tenure in this company going forward?
This match is going to be a brawl around the building, and it's going to end with Seth Rollins accidentally hitting Drew McIntyre with a chair and being forced to count a CM Punk victory.
Okay.
In the same way that CM Punk, and I like CM Punk. I know you hate him, and I love that you hate him.
Boo.
In the same way, this is how I get heat, brother. in the same way that in SummerSlam of 1997, Shawn Michaels accidentally hits The Undertaker and has to count a pinfall on Bret Hart. Because if you look in CM Punk's matches, since he had the match with Darby Allin in AEW, there's always a quote-unquote callback to something.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And I call BS on that. I just call it plagiarism. Unless you want to go through the research, you steal from one, it's plagiarism. You steal from many, it's research. I think what CM Punk does is plagiarism, just stealing Bret Hart matches.
Sure.
And ideas and concepts and all that stuff.
And just hoping you've never seen them because you're 20.
But then there's the internet that remembers everything, or somebody on the internet does. So that's what I think it's going to be. It's going to be this no-holds-barred brawl, and they've already given out the stipulations for it as we're recording this on Raw. But I think ultimately Seth Rollins screws Drew McIntyre, CM Punk gets the win, and then you bridge off and you try to extend CM Punk and Seth Rollins, and you try to extend this story. And meanwhile, Drew McIntyre's like, what do I do now? And maybe that's where Drew McIntyre gets back at Damian Priest, or Rollins has a promise of Damian Priest getting a title shot.
I think I don't disagree with that at all. And what I think is with CM Punk just desperately needs momentum. He has to win the match. Yes. He needs the momentum.
Because there's an argument to be made that McIntyre has carried this program for months.
Of course he has. Of course, CM Punk has spent half of it as a commentator, agitating him during a WrestleMania
that's his strength.
match. Right. And I don't think that Punk...
And they've fallen into it accidentally.
Yes.
And Punk has done the best, given the fact that he can't work, with trying to stay as an on-air personality. But I think it's two things. Punk desperately needs the momentum to prove that he can still kind of do this thing. He can't come back after all of this and then lose. And then the other thing is McIntyre's character plays so well into being a disgruntled employee that losing this match, especially getting screwed, will only make his Twitter funnier, will only make his backstage, only make his threat to quit more prevalent and realistic.
Right.
And so it works that this guy getting screwed would add to the character he's already portraying, which is this dude that like kind of feels like quitting already. You know what I mean? And CM Punk just desperately needs this win. Is there anything else specific about SummerSlam 2024 that you're excited about?
I hope
seeing?
to see the Wyatt Six.
What do you think about them?
I like it. I'm not a horror movie person, but I understand the concept. I like the concept. I like that they're trying to play tribute to one of everybody's seemingly favorite wrestlers in Bray Wyatt. I don't know what the end game of it is.
Yeah, I don't either.
Because we saw with Bray, you can't have him go for the world title because it compromises so much of what he can do.
I'm not trying to be a dick here, but I mean, Uncle Howdy can't be the WWE champion. I'm sorry. Your name is Uncle Howdy.
But you know what? Maybe Alexa Bliss comes back and she can be the women's champion. Or Nikki Cross can have another run at the women's championship. Or they can do something in their tag team championship.
Well, the
Or you
Undertaker
hugely elevate Rowan or
This
something.
could be like high mid card, or opening segment stuff. Like
the
there's a spot
Undertaker
for
also surprisingly has not as many championships as you would think, especially going into the brand split era. He got more with the brand split era, but he wasn't the champion often. And I think
and the only reason why he got it off of Hogan because they had a story, and they wanted him as the undefeated champion. But then he had to literally lose it the next week, and it's up for grabs in the Rumble, and he's out early in the Rumble, even though I think he got like 20 out of 30, and they had special rules for Hogan and Taker could only get 20 through 30. He ended up with 20, and it was an early exit, right? The only reason why he got it in 13 was because Shawn didn't want to lose, Brett didn't want to lose, and then Brett lost, but Brett won first, and then he lost to Sid, and he was already in a story with Austin. It was just so much
Here's the thing
chaos, and The Undertaker was stability for an otherwise chaotic situation.
Well, here's the other thing too. Like, so with Bray Wyatt, they pivot into this, right? So, the Wyatt Six is a lesser Bray Wyatt, and here's the problem that I always had with Bray Wyatt. And God rest his soul, Wyndham Rotunda was an amazing performer with ideas, right?
Good people too.
And I've heard that as well. And just like he seemed like it's
Really good people.
The business suffered a loss with his death, no doubt about it. And he was a good guy. But here's the thing: when you're the Joker, you can't be in every Batman movie, because when you are, and your whole thing is, I am just going to blow up Gotham. I have no real plan. I don't really care what happens after that, but I'm going to blow up Gotham City. If every movie ends and you don't blow up Gotham City, you lose credibility as a threat. And so when your idea is just the problem with Bray Wyatt was, right, like John Cena, I'm going to get in your head in a way that no one's ever got in your head before. I'm going to make you turn heel. I'm going to make you hit me with this chair. It's like what the Joker did with Batman. I want you to kill me because you don't want to. And so I can't lose. I'm either going to blow up Gotham or you're going to kill me, and I either get to blow up Gotham or prove that you're a fraud. Right? Can't lose. And with Bray Wyatt, that was the whole thing. And unfortunately, when you lose and you lose and you lose, the next time you come and tell me you're going to take over the world, loses a little steam. Tell me you're going to take over the world, take over the world. When you're the Wyatt Six and you're already a lesser version of Bray Wyatt, we all know you're Bo Dallas. You know what I mean? We all know you're Eric Rowan.
I love Bo Dallas.
But we all know you're Bo Dallas. We all know you're Eric Rowan. We all know who you are. And if you're going to keep telling me we're going to take over Raw, take over the world, and you don't, then that to me has such an incredibly short shelf life in wrestling. Like even The Undertaker, bring him up. He got to that point where the Ministry of Darkness, and he was like, I'm going to take over the universe and right. And the fortunate thing for him is shortly after the Ministry of Darkness, Undertaker, he got hurt and he needed to take a significant amount of time off. And when he came back, he's like, Vince, that character's done all it can. I need to make a change. I can't, there's nowhere to go from I'm in charge of hell and trying to take over the company, especially when I just lost to Steve Austin. So they made a change. And when your character is just, I'm going to take over the world, you either have to or shut up about it.
Yes.
And I don't think that gimmicks like the Wyatt Six have long lives, especially since people are going to want them to be around for years.
It depends on if they commit or not. That's ultimately what it
But even Bray Wyatt, let's say they went all in with Bray Wyatt. How do you take over the wrestling world and then be a threat forever? What's next?
But they tried to twice.
And then what's next?
Well, that's the thing it's the thing with any champion with what's next, right?
But usually not bad guy champions. Usually babyface champions come with a huge, like, now what? Usually
Cody.
Usually heel champions come with the, all right, we're just getting started.
Yeah. Again, it all comes into committing, right? Because, and this is a show for another time, but the problem with Wyatt is that they never fully committed, because even when he did win the WWE Universal Championship,
he held both,
when he won, nothing changed.
Right.
And that's a show commitment thing, not a performance thing.
And Randy Orton beating him at WrestleMania. Stupid.
Yes. And so, like, if all of a sudden the show is visually different, and that comes with commitment. Are you prepared to do that? Like when WCW and NWO were pretending to be two different things, like they weren't. This show is presented by the NWO. It is NWO sold out.
But your debut is you went backstage and killed everybody.
Yes.
And so now everybody that you killed is alive.
Yeah.
And you told me your first impression was, we're not here to mess around. I have a hammer, and I'm going to go around and I'm going to kill everybody.
Sure.
You can only either kill everybody
Yeah.
or lose momentum from there. And I would tell you that all they've done is lose momentum from there
Those
because
videos-
they're not killing anybody with a hammer anymore.
Sure, but the videos have been very good, right? The vignettes have been very good. The way that they've slow rolled them in,
But that first impression, I mean,
it's huge.
You know,
but so now it's gone from the stalking and the videos, like they
like Chad Gable's fine. He looked dead. He's fine.
Yeah,
and he
that's-
recovered after
The next
a week,
the next show.
which
Yeah,
was
but
quicker
this is
than
it's a
some
television
torn
show.
past.
I
But,
mean,
but
like,
then you kill an intern and you never see him again. You
Sure.
don't kill Chad Gable.
But who have they killed on this show before? They haven't killed anybody. Everybody makes a comeback.
But
So-
not with a bullet in their head.
Yeah, but nobody's got. Well, that was the internet.
There was a limo incident.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Vince McMahon was fine.
Yeah.
The next week.
Yeah, because of Chris Benoit.
Yeah, but it's just so they beat up everybody and people were laid bloody, right? Like the internet took them and said they just shot him in the head. That is not a WWE thing.
Well, did the
Well,
little
except
red,
for Brian Pillman.
Well, did the
It
red
was-
the red
no, it was
dot
on
and
the side of his head.
and like the blood on the wall? I mean,
Yeah.
they at least hit him with a ballpoint hammer, and the next week he's fine.
Sure.
Now we know where somebody,
Yeah,
a
but how
political
many
figure,
times?
got his
How many
creative
times
from.
has somebody been crushed by a car and like they were like Triple H? I'm pretty sure got dropped from a cherry picker by Stone Cold Steve Austin.
But you couldn't.
okay.
But you couldn't have lost Chad Gable for 3 weeks.
Here's the thing. Sure.
Nope.
But for in all seriousness, now they have these videos, right? They've shifted, and so now Bo Dallas is here, and then it's changed Chad Gable. Chad Gable has changed,
Right, sure.
and that's the important thing.
You're right.
I don't
John
need-
Cena did not get
Yes.
scathed by Bray Wyatt.
Yeah,
You're
and
right.
that's
Yep.
the difference.
You're right.
That's
Yep.
the difference. Chad Gable had to go out and recruit the Creed brothers because he was so scared of the Wyatt Six that
Cena
he
had 2 programs with Wyatt and left unchanged.
Yeah, and so now that's the type of effect that
a good point.
these people need to have, and so far it is a small sample size. They are having that effect.
And good for them for not going straight to the top.
Yes.
Like Bray Wyatt went straight for the king.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
And yeah, he's going to beat up Chad Gable at SummerSlam if they come up. Uncle Howdy's going to beat him up, and then they're going to be like, "I'm here. I'm still spooky." And like, I don't need them to like really wrestle till like Survivor Series.
What'll be the, just to wrap up and get out of here because we've taken so much of everybody's time and Jimmy's. What are you looking forward to most? What do you think will be the lasting memory of SummerSlam 2024?
I think we're going to get a big surprise at the end. I think that the show is going to end unexpectedly.
I'm going to make a bold prediction how the show is going to end. Brock Lesnar.
Ooh.
That's my prediction. Brock Lesnar.
He's going to come to save Paul Heyman finally?
Brock Lesnar is going to be the one that either tries to get Paul Heyman out of this because he's so scared of Solo Sikoa, setting up Solo's next opponent or something like that. But my bold prediction is that Brock Lesnar will be part of this show.
Solo versus Brock for the championship at Bash in Berlin.
I don't hate that at all.
pretty cool.
And there's something about Paul Heyman needing to be rescued from this.
He asked CM Punk to save him. I don't know what's happening here, but that's a
Great.
good option. That's a great option
Brock
too.
Brock Lesnar, and he's also at the point where, if you remember when Brock Lesnar, before he kind of got blackballed a little bit here, which I think they're going to move on and let him back in, that he not only put over Cody, but like he raised Cody's hand over and over again. That was not that was not an ask. That was not expected. He was like, Brock Lesnar at that point, before knew him, the Black Belt, he's like, I'm probably going to work 15 more matches in my life, and I'm going to put some people over at the end because that's what I do. And I just got a feeling that Lesnar coming back, either being okay with giving Reigns one more, giving Solo one more, giving Cody something to work with, something with Heyman. I feel like Lesnar's been out of sight, out of mind for so long, and you
Sure.
almost kind of look around for Roman Reigns, and then here comes Brock Lesnar, and that's my bold prediction for this, that Lesnar's going to be part of this show.
That'd be fun.
I think it's Solo wins, and I think it's Roman who helps him.
All right.
Are you
I don't feel good about that, but that would be my.
are you high on WWE right now?
Oh yeah, the fact that they've slowed this thing down, like I'm watching 1988, like the Mega Power storyline all over again.
You know what's so
the
cool?
fact that the biggest difference though, and you guys talked about it to open the show, and I'll be very quick with this thought because I'd be toes up at this point. I'm gonna get yelled at about it, but side topic.
we can be your manager.
I know you're going to be my advocate. Full circle, right? Storytelling is Triple H has slowed everything down to the point where I'm watching the mega powers explode all over again on different levels of different stories because he's got patience. You said the NXT golden, black and gold brand. That's exactly what this is. And it makes everything more important, makes everything more valuable. And AEW is trying to put their pedal to the metal because they think that that's the way to go is they're going to go slower, we're going to go faster. Well, what was proven over time with the Vince McMahon, Vince Russo era was you can only go pedal to the metal for so long until you run out of things.
Yeah.
And right now we're looking at WWE, and we just went through a bunch of different scenarios of how the story can change and go wherever it needs to go. AEW is putting Will Ospreay and MJF in a 60-minute match. That should be a Wembley match.
Yeah. But I got to win the week.
For the first time.
Yeah.
You know, they're turning they've changed a championship 3 times, and now it's the I don't want to do a political thing, but it's what I thought of when I first saw it. It's the Make America Great title now.
Yeah, sure, right.
With MJF.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Right? And I don't do politics.
But that's what it's
until, like,
intended to
Yeah,
be. It's supposed to
that's-
agitate you and present
Right.
itself that way.
And they've ruined Okada. And
it makes me so sad.
and Mercedes Moné had a great ovation in Boston and has been a flop ever since. They've turned Bryan Danielson's last run and winning the Owen and then putting him in a promo with Renee Paquette. And it's like Jeff Jarrett outshines Bryan Danielson in the promo. And now it's like, oh, I got to get my head together. And oh, by the way, my contract is coming up. And it's like, no, Danielson's last match should be he wins the title on the biggest stage. And even if he drops it in 2 weeks back to Swerve Strickland or to MJF or to Adam Page, whoever that is, Danielson should be the AEW champion at one point. So that's where I'm kind of at with wrestling right now is WWE is in a spot where they can't do anything wrong. Their biggest wrong right now is the lawsuit against Vince McMahon. And
they've separated from him completely.
But there might be a time where there's depositions, and we all 3 know there's a lot of dirt under a lot of people's fingernails.
Yeah.
And so if it ever gets to that point, this company's going to look very, very different. So, but they're slowing things down on TV. And the worst thing is a lawsuit ends them. AEW is going in the other direction, and I want them to do well, but they've got their pedal to the metal, and it's like they're going to run out of stuff, but Tony has money, so it can keep going.
The best thing about WWE right now is that everything we talked about, every match has a logical several options, where those options can lead, how they all make sense, how they're all kind of interesting, how obviously you want others more than others, but everybody's doing something of value. Every story has substance. Everything is layered, and everything has a logical next step. Even if they choose different steps to take, there is a next one. This is the best WWE's been as far as a TV show in a very long time, and I am excited for SummerSlam, and being excited for things is the entire point, because we're not too old to do what we love, to talk about what we love, and to experience what we love, and that's what we're doing here. We're going to watch SummerSlam together. We hope that we can take you on a ride of all sorts of fun and amazing things. Anything that's interesting and on TV or at the theaters or in the papers or going on, anything that we are interested in, anything we've always wanted to try, that's what we're going to be doing on Not Too Old To. We love wrestling. We'll watch wrestling. We love lots of things, and we're going to bring lots and lots and lots of things to you. We hope that you'll check us out. All of our socials are going to be at Not Too Old To Show. That's the number 2, Not Too Old To Show. We'll have a website coming soon, and we just really hope that you guys will join us and enjoy what we're doing as much as we enjoy doing it, because you really are not too old to do the things you love with the people you love. Jimmy Stewart from 98.5 The Sports Hub, at I Am James Stewart. Stick to Wrestling Podcast. 98.5.com, 98.5thesportshub.com is where you can find everything. You know him if you're in the Northeast. Thank you so much for your time, going overtime and joining us. We really, really appreciate you.
My pleasure. Now, where do I get paid for this?
We love you.
After the count.
You'll get,
okay.
We love you. And we love you. We will see you very soon. Go check out, follow everything. We are going to be bringing you weekly content, and enjoy SummerSlam. You're not too old to.
We'll see you real soon.